Chapter 426. Sun Sol Qin Yin carefully probed his surroundings, but did not find anyone. Looks like this palace should be abandoned. It was better for him to leave. He had to figure out where he was. Obviously, this was not the ancient garden where the three desolate lands converged, but another place. Qin Yun entered the palace. It was cold and cheerless inside. Furthermore, it was extremely cold. "Is anyone there?" he shouted loudly. His voice carried a trace of vibrating power as it reverberated through the palace. After shouting, he immediately became vigilant, worried that someone else would suddenly attack. A moment later, there was no movement inside at all. Qin Yun could only carefully walk through the palace. It should have been very beautiful inside. There were fake mountains and waterfalls, small rivers and ponds, gardens and pavilions, and countless unique and classical buildings. However, they had all been destroyed. It shouldn't have been too long since it was destroyed. In the garden, he picked up a withered herb and was slightly surprised. It looks like it's only been a few decades. A few decades ago, this should have been a place with people, and many medicinal herbs were planted here. Qin Yun had entered the ancient garden to find the medicinal herbs needed to cure Feng Honglan's poison, but now he had come to this damned place. Is this an ancient garden? Are little Lu and the others in this damned place? Qin Yun had already asked this question countless times in his heart, but he could not get any answers. This abandoned and dilapidated palace was Qin Yun's only clue. Therefore, he could only search the entire palace bit by bit to find some clues. After 2 days of searching, he finally entered the core of the palace's formation. It was located under a stone house in the southeast of the palace. The core of the formation was where the Great Formation was maintained. After Qin Yun entered the core, he took out 2 glowing stones and illuminated the huge underground hall. After illuminating it, he could not help but be alarmed. They're all moon runes and star runes. Qin Yun suddenly felt that these moon runes and star runes were very familiar. They were very similar to the ones he had obtained in the inscription gate. This caused him to fall into deep thought. The star and moon runes of the inscription gate were obviously related to this place, and his mysterious pill scripture was definitely related to this place. Could it be that Martial King Lan Shao has been here before? Qin Yun thought to himself before walking out of the core of the array formation. When he came to the top and walked out of the stone house, he suddenly saw a black shadow flash over. It scared him so much that his heart started to beat violently, and he immediately entered a state of battle. "Who is it?" Qin Yun shouted. The black shadow suddenly appeared for a moment and then disappeared. Qin Yun hurriedly ran out and jumped to the top of the pavilion. He observed his surroundings with a frown. After searching for a while, the black shadow appeared again. This time, it was slowly behind him. Qin Yun also sensed something behind him. He turned around and discovered a short old woman with dark skin and a face full of wrinkles. After being frightened, he quickly retreated. "Granny, who are you?" This old woman is very strong. Although the body under the black robe is thin and small, that terrifying power made Qin Yun feel extremely powerless. "I'm the general director of the Moon Palace." The old granny looked at Qin Yun carefully and muttered, "I seem to recognize you. Aren't you that immortal king?" Qin Yun was taken aback as he said with a smile, "Granny, you have mistaken me for someone else. I am not some immortal king. I am only at the martial Dao realm right now. I won't remember wrongly. You are that immortal king. You often come to the Moon Palace to meet with the young palace master. I remember you," the old granny said with certainty. "Ah, then is your young palatial lord a man or a woman?" Qin Yun was also baffled. "Of course it's a woman." The old granny smiled and said, "You are that immortal king. There's no mistake." Qin Yun sat on the roof and did not continue to harp on the problem. He could tell that the old granny was a little deranged. "Grandmother, when was this palace destroyed?" Qin Yun asked. "It has been destroyed for more than 20 years. Other than me, they are all dead." The old granny took out a portrait and could not help but cry. "My pitiful young palace master. She was brought up by me, but in the end, she died." Qin Yun leaned over and looked at the portrait. He was immediately dumbfounded. The person in the portrait was none other than Yang Shiryu. He suddenly thought of reincarnation or something. Yang Shiryu was exactly the same as the woman in the portrait. It was extremely likely that she was the reincarnation of that young palace master. Qin Yin also thought of himself. The old granny said that he was some immortal king. He did not continue thinking about it. He could not believe that he had a past life. He had no memories of this at all. Grandmother, does this young palace master of yours have a moon martial spirit? Qin Yun asked. Of course. This is the moon, and everyone born here has a moon martial spirit. The old granny said. This greatly alarmed Qin Yun, causing him to abruptly stand up. The place he was at was actually above the moon. Right now, he was more worried about how he could return to the martial desolate. Grandmother, have you heard of the martial desolate in the 9 desolate lands? Qin Yun asked hurriedly. Of course I've heard of it. Isn't that a place for mortals? Why are you asking this? The old granny put away the portrait. Can you tell me how to get there? I have urgent matters to attend to. Qin Yun asked anxiously. He wanted to leave this damned place as soon as possible. There are several teleportation formations here. One of them can teleport over, but it's damaged. The old granny said. It's fine, I'll go fix it. Qin Yun was secretly delighted as he hurriedly said. The old granny quickly got up and flew in a certain direction. Her speed was extremely fast. Qin Yun immediately chased after her and shouted, Grandma, wait for me. The old granny snorted and said, As an immortal king, you should be much stronger than me. Why are you so slow? Qin Yun smiled bitterly in his heart because he was not an immortal king at all. He was just a mortal. Grandma, have you heard of reincarnation or something like that? He asked after catching up to the old granny who had slowed down. Of course I've heard of it. It's a very normal thing. However, not many people have successfully reincarnated. The old granny sighed. What is a successful reincarnation? Qin Yun asked curiously. Are you an immortal king or not? Why don't you even know this? The old granny frowned and said, Successful reincarnation means that after reincarnation, the memories of the previous life will be retained. Qin Yun suddenly thought of Xie Qiru. She had said that she had reincarnated and had even brought out the immortal graveyard diagram and the 9 yang divine spirit. Could it be that my reincarnation failed? He thought to himself. The old granny pointed at the few mountains in front of her and said, There is a teleportation formation in each of those short mountains. Qin Yun nodded and asked again, Grandmother, I saw a woman who looked exactly like the young palace master in the martial desolate. However, she doesn't remember anything, and she has a purple moon martial spirit. When the old granny heard this, she suddenly stopped and grabbed Qin Yun's shoulders with both hands. She shook Qin Yun excitedly and shouted in ecstasy, That's the young palace master. There's no mistake. In a damned place like the martial desolate, it's very difficult for mortals to awaken the moon martial spirit. But her reincarnation failed. Qin Yun muttered. He had seen people who had awakened the sun martial spirit before. In the records, there were many who had awakened the sun martial spirit, but there were very few who had awakened the moon martial spirit. It was indeed strange. She did not fail. Her moon martial spirit is still preserved. The old granny said excitedly, Maybe it's just that her memories won't awaken that quickly. Qin Yun's heart was in a mess. He never expected Yang Shiryu to have such a powerful past life. Then Grandma, do you have anything to give her? I'll go to the martial desolate and bring it to her. Qin Yun was also very curious as to how this old granny had survived. That was because everyone in the Guanghan Palace had died. The old granny quickly took out a large black bead and handed it to Qin Yun. She said, Give this to her. This was left behind by our palace master before he died. What is this? When Qin Yun received it, he felt a chill. Black Moon Martial Spirit. This is the strongest moon martial spirit. The old granny's words left Qin Yun dumbfounded. Qin Yun could tell that the black bead in his hand was not a soul-sealing pearl, but a large bead condensed from a martial spirit. Grandma, to tell you the truth, I mistakenly entered this place from the martial desolate, and it was not that immortal king at all. Qin Yun sighed. Do you still believe me now? Only then did the old granny react. She frowned and said, could it be that you failed to reincarnate as well? Then how did you come to this place? Qin Yun took out his ancient garden pass and said, I took this pass and ran in through a bridge. This token, it's that woman's. The old granny said in astonishment. MOG and our palace master are good friends. That's why she has this token and can freely enter and exit this place. Qin Yun immediately understood that the item inside the 9 Yang Divine Spirit was most likely placed inside by MOG. But why did she seal it up? Furthermore, the things that were placed inside, compared to MOG's status and identity, were considered relatively ordinary things. MOG was Siekiru's mother, and MOG had a good relationship with the palace master of the Guanghan Palace. In that case, Siekiru must have known Yang Shiyu's previous life. Qin Yun followed this train of thought and suddenly felt that Siekiru must have known that person as well. It was most likely the immortal king from his previous life. Big Sister Grand Preceptor hid a lot of things about me. Qin Yun had such a feeling from before. The old granny sighed and said, even you died. It could be seen that the calamity back then was too great. Grandma, I'm still alive. Qin Yun curled his lips and asked, what calamity is it? The old granny looked at the sun in the sky and said, the 9 suns have lost control. The sun souls have left the 9 suns one after another. One of the sun souls landed on the moon, causing many experts from the immortal desolate land to come and snatch it, turning this beautiful ancient garden into ruins. Qin Yun recalled the matter of the waves in the Myriad Star Lake. Back then, he had met the Dragon Bull at the bottom of the lake. The Dragon Bull had said that the 9 sun souls within the 9 suns had completely separated from the 9 suns. In other words, when the waves rose in the Myriad Star Lake, it was the time when the last sun soul separated. Those bastards, they made this place a mess, but they couldn't find the sun soul. It's really hard on us, the old granny said angrily. Chapter 427. Beast Flower Moon Pattern. The old granny looked at the sun in the sky and said, I don't know if the sun soul is still here, but the sun soul has indeed fallen here. Qin Yun looked at the sky as well. His heart stirred. If the sun soul was really here, he would definitely be able to obtain great power if he obtained it. Grandma, why are there 10 suns here? The old granny landed in front of the mountain and walked towards the cave. She said, there's a sun that is hidden. It cannot be seen in the 9 desolate land. That sun is the original sun. Qin Yun was baffled by these matters and did not probe further. Grandma, those people didn't find the sun soul and left. He was extremely curious about the sun soul. The old granny nodded. They searched here for more than 10 years. In the end, they confirmed that the sun soul was not here before leaving. But I think the sun soul is still here. Qin Yun followed the old granny into the cave. There was a very large teleportation formation here that mostly used moon runes. The teleportation array was still in good condition. Only the runes were damaged. This is the teleportation formation to the martial desolate land. When you return, you must hand over the black moon martial spirit to the young palace master. The old granny said. It could be seen that she trusted Qin Yun very much. I need to repair the teleportation formation to go back. Qin Yun said, this might take some time. He was unable to repair the damaged moon rune, but Mo could. The old granny said, you are only at the martial Dao realm, yet you can repair such a powerful teleportation array. I don't know, I'll give it a try. Qin Yun released Mo flew above the teleportation array. After flying for a while, she said, I can repair the runes inside, but it will take a long time. Furthermore, it will consume a lot of magical beast crystal eggs. How long will it take? Asked Qin Yun. Half a year. Mo thought for a moment. I might need to consume more than 100 magical beast crystal eggs. Moreover, it can only be barely repaired. When the time comes, it can only be used once. This was a very complicated teleportation array. It was already very good that Mo could repair it. The old granny looked at Mo, and said with a frown, "Isn't this little elf the elven high priestess?" A very cute little elf. Qin Yun smiled and asked, "Grandma, is there a lot of medicinal herbs in the Moon Palace?" "Of course. We used to plant immortal medicines here, but now they've all been destroyed." The old granny sighed in heartache. Qin Yun was secretly alarmed. There was actually a legendary immortal medicine here. He suddenly felt that this moon should belong to an extremely powerful place. There was once an immortal king here, and that powerful MOG often came here as well. But now it was destroyed. "What medicinal herbs do you need?" the old granny asked. "I want the exquisite profound fruit." Qin Yun said with some disappointment, "I have a friend who has been poisoned. I need the exquisite profound fruit to cure the poison." The old granny said, "To mortals, the exquisite profound fruit is a very precious fruit. But to us, it's just a normal fruit." The corner of Qin Yun's mouth twitched. That was a very precious draft, yet it was eaten like an ordinary fruit. "Are there any more here?" he asked quickly. "If Feng Honglan's poison is not resolved, her appearance will not be able to recover. Moreover, it will be life-threatening for her if it takes too long." The old granny said with a smile, "No. However, you don't have to eat draft to cure the poison. There's a jade rabbit here. You just need to find that little thing and bring it back." "Jade rabbit?" Qin Yun asked doubtfully, "Is it really useful?" "Jade rabbit can absorb all kinds of poisons. You have to know that jade rabbit is fed with many detoxifying Xian fruits and Xian medicines. It's an immortal little Xian beast." The old granny said, "Where's the jade rabbit?" "I'll go look for it now." Qin Yun said, "I don't know either. Back then, there was a great battle here, and only I survived." The old granny let out a long sigh. "The others are either dead or captured. However, the jade rabbit should still be alive because it's hibernating deep underground." Qin Yun said with some disappointment, "How can I find the jade rabbit?" The old granny shook her head. "It's in the Moon Palace. Look around." The Moon Palace was so big, and the jade rabbit was hiding deep underground. It would definitely be very difficult to find it. "Grandma, how big is the jade rabbit? What are its characteristics?" Qin Yun asked. "How big can it be?" "It's just a small dot, just like an ordinary rabbit. However, its body emits a pale white light." The old granny said, "That's the little rabbit that the young palace master liked very much when he was young." Qin Yun had thought that the jade rabbit was very big. After all, it was a Xian beast. "Got it." He hurriedly took out a booklet. There were star and moon runes on it. He remembered that there was a type of moon rune that could attract beasts. Beast flower moon rune. Qin Yun quickly found the moon rune. Although it looked very complicated, with his perception, he would be able to understand it as long as he had some time. He immediately took out the tools to make talismans and prepared to make a beast flower talisman. "I wonder if I can make a talisman with the beast flower moon rune?" Qin Yun placed the beast skin into the dragon suppression cauldron and released flames to burn it. The beast flower talisman could condense a strange energy called the beast flower moon dew. It was an energy that all sorts of beasts like to absorb. The old granny looked at Qin Yun's things and said, "You even said that you don't have the memories of your previous life. In your previous life, you were extremely proficient in the Tao of inscriptions." "There's such a thing," Qin Yun said in surprise. The old granny said, "In your previous life, you were an immortal king, but you were very mysterious. I don't even know the name of your previous life. I only know that your Tao of inscriptions is very impressive. It looks like after the young palace master died, you went to seek revenge on those fellows. However, you didn't succeed, so you died." Qin Yun said with a frown, "To be able to become an immortal king, does that mean that I've lived for a long time?" "That's right. What a pity you actually died." The old granny said with a pained expression, "I'm still alive." Qin Yun felt strange because the old granny looked at him as though she was looking at a dead person. The young palace master lived for a long time, but she still died. As the old granny spoke, tears streamed down her face. Qin Yun hurriedly comforted her. "Grandma, don't cry. Didn't the young palace master reincarnate?" She's still alive, and she's also my friend. When the old granny heard this, she nodded. She will definitely be able to rebuild the Guanghan Palace in the future. I will wait here for her return. Qin Yin asked, Grandma, aren't you coming with me to the martial desolate land? The old granny shook her head. I'm too strong. I've been restricted from entering the martial desolate land. That's a place for mortals. We can't just casually enter. Grandma, what else do you know about my previous life? Qin Yin was not sure if he had a previous life. The old granny thought for a moment and said, The young palace master rarely reveals anything about you. She only said that you like to explore ancient gardens. This is an ancient garden. He came in by chance and got to know the young palace master. There seemed to be 9 ancient gardens scattered throughout the 9 great desolate lands. Qin Yin was hammering the bee's skin when he suddenly stopped. He said in surprise, There are a total of 9 ancient gardens? The old granny said the group of people who destroyed this place forcefully attacked and completely destroyed the beautiful ancient gardens. I heard them say that the sun souls of the 9 suns will fall into 9 ancient gardens. It seems that tens of thousands of years ago, there were sun souls that fell into the martial desolate, beast desolate, demon desolate, magical desolate, and spirit desolate. I wonder if anyone has obtained them. Qin Yin suddenly thought of the ancient gardens on the path of the thorny devil. There might be a sun soul inside as well. I wonder how little Lu and the others are doing. That ancient garden only opens once every 1,000 years for people to enter. Furthermore, those who enter cannot reveal what is happening inside. Could it be related to the sun soul? He could not help but let his imagination run wild. The old granny suddenly patted Qin Yun's head and said, Be serious. You're about to hit it. Qin Yun came back to his senses and seriously hammered the beast's skin. Not long after, he hammered the beast's skin into the size of a talisman paper and took out the mental resonance Xian pen. He did not immediately inscribe on the talisman paper. Instead, he took out a large stack of paper and began practicing on it. What surprised him was that when he was inscribing the beast flower moon rune, the inscription spirit inside the Xian pen suddenly moved. It released a strange power that fused with his soul, allowing him to smoothly inscribe the beast flower moon rune. I never thought that the Beast King inscription spirit would have such a miraculous effect on the beast flower moon rune. This is great. Qin Yun was overjoyed. He planned to try to inscribe more beast-related runes in the future. He secretly blamed himself for not making good use of the mystical inscription spirit. In the future, he would have to put in more effort in this area. In order to ensure success, Qin Yun practiced a few more times. He was still able to successfully inscribe it. If I collect more inscription spirits, wouldn't I be able to inscribe runes faster in the future? He was only thinking about it, because it was not easy to obtain an inscription spirit. Next, he began to inscribe the Beast Flower Moon rune on the beast skin talisman paper. There seems to be an inscription spirit inside your tool for inscribing runes. The old granny suddenly said, Grandma, you know this too. Qin Yun was slightly alarmed as he said with a smile, Then do you know the greatest use of the inscription spirit? The greatest use is that it can carve the corresponding runes on the martial spirit or the body. The old granny said with a smile. Qin Yun was secretly alarmed. His inscription spirit was a beast king. Previously, he had smoothly carved the heavenly lion totem rune onto the puppet. In other words, he could easily carve a beast totem on someone else's martial spirit or body. He also planned to give it a try in the future when he had the chance. On both sides of the talisman paper, Qin Yun inscribed a set of beast flower moon rune. It was unknown what level of talisman it was. Let's give it a try. After the beast flower spirit talisman was activated, it floated and absorbed a faint silver glow from the ground, condensing into drops of beast flower moon dew. Chapter 428. Ice immortal veins, the beast flower moon dew was silvery white like the moonlight. It was very beautiful. M.O., shouted from the storage space. Big brother Yin, Let me go out and take a look. He quickly released Mo. When Mo saw the drops of beast essence moon dew, she became extremely excited. She hurriedly went over and used her small hand to dip a little bit before licking it. She smiled happily and said, "It's really delicious. This is great. This is much better than the magical beast crystal egg." "Really? Then in the future, when a magical beast crystal egg are used up, I don't have to worry about you starving," Qin Yun said in pleasant surprise. If the beast essence moon dew could become Mo's food, he wouldn't have to look for magical beast crystal eggs in the future. The beast flower talisman had gathered quite a lot of moon dew, filling up the entire plate. Not long after, the talisman disappeared. Qin Yun said, "Let's wait for a while and see." Mo also hurriedly returned to the storage space. It was too cold outside. The old granny watched from the side and said, "Jade Rabbit has slept for a long time, so she should be hungry. Maybe it will come out very soon." "Grandma, can Jade Rabbit follow me back to the Martial Desolate?" Qin Yun asked. "Of course. Bring that little thing to the young palace master. It might be of help to her." The old granny said, "No matter what, Jade Rabbit is a Xian beast. It's still very strong and can protect young palace master." Qin Yun also wanted to know how Yangshu Yu was doing in the Moon Profound Valley. Fortunately, old Madame Dew of the Moon Profound Valley had taken down the forces at the edge of the border in a timely manner to prevent the news from leaking out. One had to know that Yangshu Yu and Xiao Yuelan's martial spirits were extremely rare, even in the Martial Desolate. "Grandma, why is the Guanghan Palace so cold?" Qin Yun asked. "The moment I stepped into the vicinity of the Guanghan Palace, I felt very cold." The old granny said, "Because there is a cold ice immortal vein below the Guanghan Palace, it can release a very strong cold ice immortal chi. That's why the temperature around here is uniform. Originally, it was neither hot nor cold, but after this place was attacked, many of the formations were destroyed. Our Moon Palace is at the center of the garden, the core of the entire garden." Qin Yun recalled how he could not see anything along the way to Moon Palace. It was filled with a deathly aura. It was obvious how thoroughly the ancient garden had been destroyed. "The little rabbit is here," the old granny suddenly shouted in surprise. Qin Yun suddenly looked around and asked, "Where is it? Where is it?" "It's here." The old granny gently caressed the little rabbit next to the plate and smiled. Qin Yun was alarmed. The little rabbit's speed was so fast that it arrived in an instant. Furthermore, it was silent. He did not notice it at all. The jade rabbit wasn't big, just a little bigger than a palm. Its entire body emitted silver moonlight, making it look very beautiful. She was currently greedily sucking the beast essence moon dew on the plate. "It doesn't seem to be enough." After Qin Yun said that, he took out a magical beast crystal egg. "I wonder if she eats this." He also knew that if he wanted Jade Rabbit to follow him willingly, he had to feed her. After Jade Rabbit finished drinking the beast essence moon dew, it excitedly sprawled on the magical beast crystal egg and absorbed the energy inside. It really can eat. Qin Yun watched as the magical beast crystal egg gradually shrank. He could only take out another one. Not long after, Jade Rabbit absorbed more than a dozen magical beast crystal eggs. That was enough for Mo to eat for a year. Right now, he was very worried. If he were to hand Jade Rabbit over to Yangshu Yu, he did not know if she would be able to feed this little thing. "Jade Rabbit, do you know him?" "He is a friend of the young palace master. Although the young palace master is dead, he has been reincarnated. Are you willing to follow him to the Martial Desolate to find the young palace master?" The old granny caressed Jade Rabbit and asked. "Yes." Jade Rabbit spoke. Her voice was similar to Mo's. It was very delicate, like a little girl's. Qin Yun felt that the little Jade Rabbit was definitely eyeing his magical beast crystal egg. "Little rabbit, don't eat so many magical beast crystal eggs yet, because Mo needs to use a large number of magical beast crystal eggs to repair the formation," Qin Yun said as he held the little rabbit in his hand. "I'll eat one a day. No problem, right?" Jade Rabbit said. "It's a big problem." Qin Yun hurriedly said. One a day, 180 in half a year. As for Mo, she would need half a year to repair the teleportation formation. She would need to use more than 100 magical beast crystal eggs. Then how about this? Give me 20 and let me sleep. Jade Rabbit said, I might be sleeping. When I sleep, I don't need to eat. Qin Yun felt a lot more at ease. This Jade Rabbit was not an unreasonable person. All right, he took out 20 magical beast crystal eggs and gave them to Jade Rabbit. Jade Rabbit quickly finished absorbing it. Then she bounced around on the ground and played. It was unknown what she was excited about. Little Rabbit, can you really absorb all the poison? Qin Yun asked. Any poison is fine. Jade Rabbit jumped very high and landed on Qin Yun's head. Qin Yun hugged her and asked, Your young palace master might not have the memories of her previous life. Are you willing to continue following her? Of course I'm willing. Jade Rabbit giggled. When are you going to the Martial Desolate? When the formation is repaired, I'll go back. Qin Yun also released Mo. When Mo saw the little rabbit, she was also very happy. Then, they played together. Jade Rabbit could release a silver-white power that wrapped around Mo, preventing her from feeling cold. These two cute little things were just playing around happily. Mo, we can start repairing the teleportation formation now. Qin Yun said, Big Brother Yun, the Sun Soul is still here. Don't you want it? Jade Rabbit suddenly asked, Sun Soul? You know where it is? Qin Yun asked in surprise. The old granny was also shocked as she hurriedly asked, Little Rabbit, do you know where the Sun Soul is? It's in the ice immortal vein. I'll take you there. As Jade Rabbit spoke, she quickly ran to the side. Qin Yun placed Mo into his storage space and followed the old granny, chasing after Jade Rabbit. Jade Rabbit arrived at a frozen river in the Guanghan Palace. There was a small hole in the ice. Jade Rabbit said, I was sleeping in the ice immortal vein. The old granny shattered a piece of ice with her palm and created a large hole. Then, she pulled Qin Yun and jumped into the river. The river emitted a silver glow. It was very beautiful and it was not pitch black. Although the surface of the river was frozen, the water was very warm. The old granny pulled Qin Yun along and quickly dived down. More than an hour later, they followed Jade Rabbit to the bottom of the river. There were many large rocks and hills at the bottom of the river. Jade Rabbit drilled into a crevice in the mountain and continued to dive. The old granny and Qin Yun could also enter the crevice and dive deeper. Not long after, they were sucked down by a suction force and arrived at an ice cave. This is where the ice immortal vein is. I'll bring you to find the Sun Soul. Jade Rabbit widened her short legs and quickly ran on the ice. The old granny grabbed Qin Yun and followed closely behind. It was also at this moment that Qin Yun sensed a strong call from the front through the 9-yang divine spirit. The 9-yang divine spirit is refined from the 9-yang soul. Qin Yun was secretly delighted. This might make it easier for me to obtain the Sun Soul. Soon, he saw a large ball of fire in front of him. At the end of the ice cave, there was a pearl that was half the height of a person. It emitted intense flames. Although the flames looked very intense, they did not have any temperature. This pearl is the Sun Soul? Qin Yun said in surprise. Yes, whether or not you can take it away will depend on you. Jade Rabbit said. The old granny walked up and gently touched the pearl. Her hand was instantly ignited. She quickly retracted her hand and extinguished the flames. Don't go over, it's very dangerous. The old granny hurriedly pulled Qin Yun. It's not easy to obtain the Sun Soul. Think of a way to see if you can take this Sun Soul. Jade Rabbit said. Through the 9-yang divine spirit, Qin Yun could sense that the Sun Soul had a very strong life force. There seemed to be something alive inside the pearl. I'll go touch it. Qin Yun reached out and touched it. No flames ignited. The old granny was also surprised. What's going on? Why aren't you ignited? Just as she finished asking, the large bead suddenly disappeared. With a thought, Qin Yun stored the Sun Soul into the second bead of the 9-yang divine spirit. He thought to himself, the sun soul is very strange. It is not like a martial spirit that can be swallowed at will. I don't know what use it has for now, but to be able to store it in the 9-yang divine spirit, it can be considered as obtaining it. When Jade Rabbit saw that Qin Yin had obtained the sun soul, she was extremely happy. Qin Yin and company left the Frost Immortal Vein and arrived on the ground. They entered the cave. There was a teleportation array inside the cave. As long as it was repaired, they would be able to teleport to the Martial Desolate. Jade Rabbit also entered a deep slumber and was placed into the first bead of the 9-yang divine spirit by Qin Yin. Mo, on the other hand, began repairing the teleportation array in the cave. The cave was not cold, so Mo could comfortably fly around and repair the damaged runes. Qin Yin and the old granny stood guard outside the cave entrance, looking at the sun in the sky. Grandma, why can't I absorb the sun's spiritual energy when I'm here? Qin Yin asked. That's because you don't have an immortal meridian, so you can't absorb it, the old granny said with a smile. Qin Yin was also extremely astonished. This place actually had immortal energy. He also understood why he could obtain spiritual energy through the 9-yang spirit convergence array. It was because the 9-yang spirit convergence array could turn immortal energy into spiritual energy. The one spirit vein in my body has yet to evolve into an immortal vein, so I'm unable to absorb immortal energy through the 9-yang divine spirit. So that's how it is. Qin Yin looked at the sun in the sky and felt somewhat regretful. The old granny looked at Qin Yin and asked, Little Yin, when you return to the Martial Desolate, you must take good care of Palace Mistress Shui. Qin Yin nodded and said, Definitely. All right, Grandma, I have a black martial spirit and I can't cultivate it right now. Do you have a way to help me break through? The old granny said in surprise, Of course there's a way, but the specifics will depend on you. Chapter 429. The 9 sons are different. Qin Yin had previously learned from Wei Zhongjing that the key to cultivating a black martial spirit was indeed to cultivate one's body. Grandma, I don't know how to use the power of the 9 sons to temper my body. Do you have any ideas? Qin Yin said. At this moment, he was unable to absorb the 9 sons' spiritual energy in this place, nor could he try. First of all, you have to decide which sun's energy you want to use to temper your body. Although every sun looks the same now, they're all different, the old granny said. Qin Yin looked at the sun in the sky and asked with a frown, Could it be that everyone can only choose one sun when using the power of the sun to temper their body? Don't some people have many spirit veins in their bodies? They can sense several suns. The old granny smiled and said, That's right. However, when tempering his body, he only needed the power of one sun. Otherwise, it will destroy your body. Qin Yin was still puzzled. We can absorb the spiritual energy of multiple suns and store it in our bodies. Why can't we use the power of multiple suns to temper our bodies? I just said it. The sun power, which was used to refine the body, was different from the spiritual energy. It was very violent. Just the power of the sun was enough to make you feel very uncomfortable. If the power of the 2 suns fuse together, it will increase by several times. You have absorbed the spiritual qi of many suns into your body, so you must understand that the fusion of the spiritual qi of 3 suns is much stronger than that of 2 suns. The old granny explained patiently. Qin Yin also recalled the 9 suns are different mentioned in the yang refinement body. The power of each sun was different. This required careful comprehension. Then, Grandma, what should I do to draw the power of the sun to temper my body? Qin Yin asked anxiously. I've always been worried that I won't be able to break through the bottleneck because of the black martial spirit. Don't worry, I can guide you to comprehend the power of the sun. The old granny smiled and said, There's a benefit to being here. It's to be able to sense the power of the sun better. We'll definitely succeed very soon. As long as you complete the first step, in the following days, slowly temper your body. Your martial soul will also evolve. The Black Moon martial spirit that the old granny had given Qin Yin had also been cultivated to a very high realm. In this kind of place, The black martial spirit simply did not have the so-called curse. Then I will thank Grandma first, Qin Yin said with some happiness. The old granny said, I'll help you draw in the sun's power now, so that you can familiarize yourself with it first. At that moment, Qin Yin also understood that the power of the sun was different from the sun's spiritual energy. As long as there was a spiritual vein, one could easily sense spiritual energy. As for the power of the sun, no matter how many spirit veins there were, it was difficult to sense it. It required a special technique. There was no such technique in a martial desolate. The old granny placed her hand on Qin Yun's dantian and said, Is your black martial spirit here? Grandma, the black martial spirit I want to cultivate is in the heart. Is it through the martial spirit to guide the power of the sun? Qin Yun asked in surprise. Of course, only the black martial spirit could sense the power of the sun. At your stage, your martial spirit has to evolve. The black martial spirit is already the limit of the martial spirit. Only by evolving into a divine ability martial spirit can you become stronger. After absorbing the power of the sun, a corresponding divine ability will appear according to the sun. The 9 suns contain countless divine abilities. It all depends on how much you can comprehend. Qin Yin was taken aback. He finally understood the meaning of the 9 suns are different, the myriad of divine abilities. It was what the old granny had just said. The 9 suns are different, the myriad of divine abilities, the sun god flying soul, the divine abilities enter the body. This was a short chant for refining the body. What Qin Yin could not understand was the meaning of sun god flying soul. Grandma, do you know what the sun god flying soul means? Qin Yin asked hurriedly. How do you know this chant? The old granny asked in surprise. The meaning of the sun god flying soul is to cultivate the sun god and then let the martial spirit fly out of the body and approach the sun to absorb the power of the sun. What is the sun god? Qin Yin never expected the old granny to know that chant. That is the highest state of mental power. There are 3 stages to the realm of mental power. The first stage is to transform the spirit into a star. The second stage is to transform the star into the divine moon. And the third stage is the sun god. The old granny said, It's very difficult to reach the third stage. Even I am only at the stage of the divine moon, and it's only a small crescent moon. I'm still far from the full moon. Qin Yun's current star crystal was at the first stage. Originally, he thought that with just a change in color, he would be able to improve it. But from the looks of it, he still needed to cultivate the star crystal to become bigger. Then can I use the sun god flying soul now? Qin Yun asked curiously. The old granny shook her head and smiled. Silly child, that's definitely impossible. Only by cultivating the sun god can you allow your martial spirit to fly close to the sun without being destroyed. With your current mental power, your martial spirit won't be able to fly far. Qin Yin recalled the time when he was at the soul-guiding star peak. His consciousness could enter the vast sea of stars. In the vast sea of stars, there were countless suns. The great formation of the soul-guiding star peak can allow a person's martial spirit to approach the sun in advance. The old granny placed her palm on Qin Yun's heart and said, Xiao Yin, I'm going to begin. I will absorb the power of the sun and then inject it into your black martial spirit, guiding it to absorb itself. Grandma, since you can absorb the power of the sun, do you also have a black martial spirit? Qin Yin asked curiously. Of course, during the process of cultivation, a martial artist can have many opportunities to evolve their martial spirit. As long as they grasp the opportunity, their martial spirit can evolve to black. If the martial spirit cannot evolve to black, then how can it obtain the myriad divine abilities of the 9 suns? Without a black martial spirit, it is extremely weak and unworthy of obtaining a divine ability. The old granny said. Qin Yun had previously obtained a blue divine ability martial spirit. That could be considered a very special divine ability. I'll begin. The old granny said before injecting a wave of sun power into Qin Yun's vibration Tao core to wrap around the black martial spirit inside. Qin Yun also understood the effects of this guidance. It was just like how he could guide others to carry out spiritual aura. This kind of guidance was beneficial and harmless. Only people with extremely high realms could help others conduct all kinds of guidance. Therefore, those disciples of famous sects all wanted to acknowledge a good master. This would help them in many aspects in the future and help them avoid many detours. The old granny frowned and said, "Your vibration martial spirit is rather special. The power of the sun, I sense, is not compatible with the vibration martial spirit. Is there a compatibility or not?" Qin Yun was somewhat disappointed because the old granny had failed. Of course, the 9 suns are different, but they contain different powers. You can't mess around. The old granny said, "But you don't have to worry. I'll use another method to help you guide it. It will take a little longer." Qin Yun gradually calmed down as he laid on the chair in peace and basked in the sun. The old granny sat opposite him with her eyes closed. She seemed to be sensing the power of the sun. "Grandma, what are the powers of the 9 suns?" Qin Yun asked. "I don't know the specifics either. In short, different martial spirits need to correspond to different suns. As for the 9 suns, they are all-encompassing." The old granny said, "I heard that one of the 9 suns is a great calamity. It can release all kinds of calamities. Vibration can cause the earth to shake and cause mountains to collapse. It might need to absorb the power of the great calamity sun." "Grandma, what if it's a black moon martial spirit? What kind of sun power do you need to absorb?" Qin Yun asked again. "Of course the black moon martial spirit absorbs the moon, and it's very easy." The old granny smiled and said, "It's best if you teach the black moon martial spirit to the young palace master before she reaches the 3rd level of the martial Tao realm. Let her grasp the opportunity to evolve her martial spirit and obtain a divine ability as soon as possible. Her martial spirit is the purple moon martial spirit. If she were to fuse with the black moon martial spirit, what would happen?" When Qin Yun thought of this, he was secretly alarmed. The old granny said, "When the time comes, the black moon martial spirit will absorb the purple moon martial spirit and strengthen itself. As for what will happen, the young palace master should be able to handle it." Qin Yun thought of his nether sun martial spirit. He did not know which sun the nether sun would absorb to temper itself. "Grandma, to tell you the truth, I have another black martial spirit called the nether sun martial spirit." After careful consideration, he decided to tell the old granny about this matter. The old granny, who had her eyes closed, jumped down from her chair. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" "Great! The nether sun martial spirit is the strongest sun martial spirit." "Is this true?" Qin Yun asked in surprise. "Do you think the black sun martial spirit is the strongest?" "The black martial spirit must be the nether sun martial spirit. I'm very sure of this." The old granny said, "If it was any other martial spirit, it would not be able to fit and withstand the power of multiple suns. But only the nether sun martial spirit can. The nether sun martial spirit can absorb a large amount of sun power and then release it bit by bit to temper your body. When the time comes, you will be able to cultivate the 9 sun body." The old granny said excitedly, "Do you know what this means?" Qin Yun's face was filled with surprise as he shook his head. "I don't know." The old granny said excitedly, "It means that you will master a large number of divine abilities. It means that you will be able to easily cultivate a sun soul." Qin Yun never expected the nether sun martial spirit to be so powerful. "Now it's easy. I'll help you channel the power of the 9 suns into the nether sun martial spirit. Then, you can control the nether sun martial spirit and release different types of sun power to temper your other black martial spirit," the old granny said. Previously, the old granny had said that it was impossible to use the power of 9 suns to temper his body, but now she said that it was possible. Qin Yun felt somewhat confused, but he could only try according to the old granny's instructions. Chapter 430. Sun Gathering Formation. Qin Yun had the Nether Sun martial spirit, but he was unable to sense the mysterious sun power on his own. He could only rely on the help of others. It was extremely difficult to sense the sun power on his own. Even with the old granny's help, Qin Yun was still unable to sense it in a short period of time. 3 days passed. "Grandma, why isn't it working?" Qin Yun asked. "Don't worry, it will definitely work. It's just that it will take a bit longer," the old granny said. "Actually, the main reason is because the environment you were born in is different." Qin Yun could only wait patiently. In the past few days, he had asked the old granny for her name, but she did not say it. It was as if she did not want others to know her name. Every day, the old granny would send a strange warm power into Qin Yun's Nether Sun martial spirit. Qin Yun did not know what kind of power it was, but he felt that the Nether Sun martial spirit seemed to like to absorb that kind of power. Originally, he thought that it would only take him about 10 days to complete. But later on, it took him 2 months to successfully sense the power of the sun. This is considered rather fast. The old granny smiled and said, "You must know that you can now draw the power of 9 suns into your Dao core." Qin Yun felt rather puzzled. He thought that absorbing the sun power into his body would allow him to strengthen or recover quickly. However, he never expected that he would need to consume the inner strength of 3 Dao cores to absorb a bit of the sun power. He said somewhat anxiously, "If this goes on, when will I be able to evolve my black martial spirit?" "Xiaoyun, you can't rush this kind of thing," the old granny said. "You cultivate 2 black martial spirits. How can you evolve them in such a short period of time?" Qin Yun thought of the great formation at the soul-guiding star peak. He felt that there must be some great formation that could increase the speed at which he absorbed the sun's power. He hurriedly took out a book and flipped through the star and moon runes inside. The stars and moon also grow by absorbing the sun's power. There should be a star and moon rune that can absorb the sun's power. Qin Yun looked at it seriously. Not long after, he found a very complicated star rune and moon rune. If they were combined together, he would be able to absorb the sun's power. He quickly took out a pen and paper and began practicing. Mo was still repairing the teleportation formation. There were still 4 months before she could complete it. Qin Yun also took advantage of the time to create a bee skin array. The star congregating sun rune and the moon congregating sun rune can be inscribed together to form a formation. I wonder how much energy it will consume. First, he practiced the star pattern and drew it on the paper. If drawing 100 times was not enough, he would draw 1,000 times until he was familiar with it. Qin Yun spent a month to familiarize himself with these 2 complex runes. Then, he began to refine bee skin and begin carving. He quickly refined a piece of bee skin that was big enough for him to sit on. The bee skin was hexagonal, and there was a large pearl at each corner. There was a storage space inside the bead, which was used to store purple crystal coins or other items that contained energy. This was to allow the array formation to absorb energy and operate. The old granny just watched from the side. Although her cultivation is very strong, she doesn't know much about inscriptions. Qin Yun struggled for 2 months before finally coming up with an array formation. He was exhausted to the point of suffocating. The last time he refined the flag array, it wasn't even this hard. This sun-congregating energy formation consumes a lot of energy. The 600,000 purple coins I have shouldn't be able to last long. Qin Yun only had 600,000 purple coins in his storage space. The other purple coins were all in his crystal card. He needed to go to the Divine Inscription Palace to exchange them. He placed 100,000 purple coins into each of the 6 beads of the formation. Then, he activated the formation and sat in the middle. After the formation was activated, it was immediately enveloped by a 9-colored light. Qin Yun's Nether Sun martial spirit also became extremely active as it absorbed the 9-colored light. The speed at which the sun's power is absorbed is very fast. Furthermore, it's absorbing 9 suns. Qin Yun was overjoyed. He did not know if it was because he had the 9-sun divine spirit, but it was relatively easy for him to guide the flow of the 9 suns' power. This was because the old granny had said before that it was rather difficult to control the sun's power. The sun's power was absorbed by the nether sun martial spirit. Then, the nether sun martial spirit released the power of the 9 suns bit by bit. This way, it would not cause any harm to the body. Otherwise, if the 9 suns' power wreaked havoc in a body, it would cause great harm. Qin Yin closed his eyes and used the power of the 9 suns to temper his body. His body also became extremely hot, even though he had the nether sun martial spirit to control the strength of the sun's power. The weakest of the sun's power still made him feel as if his body was being poured into lava. The old granny was secretly surprised as she watched from the side. She never expected that Qin Yin would actually find a way to quickly temper his body. An hour passed, and the formation that was enveloped by the 9-colored light also dimmed. The energy was exhausted, and the formation stopped. Qin Yun's nether sun martial spirit still had a lot of sun power that could allow him to continue tempering his body. However, it could only last for more than 10 hours. 600,000 purple coins is only enough for half a day. Qin Yin was speechless. If he wanted to temper his body for an entire day, he would need 1,000,000 purple coins. That would be 30 million purple coins a month. Originally, he had tens of thousands of purple coins and felt that it was quite a lot. But now that he thought about it, it was only enough for him to use for 10 days. All right. Who told me to have 2 black martial spirits to nurture? Qin Yin felt that since he was a spirit inscription master, it would be relatively easy for him to obtain purple coins. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Mo had finally repaired the teleportation formation, but it was only enough to open it once. She did not carry out a deep level of repair. After using it once, the inscription would be torn apart by the powerful energy and destroyed again. The teleportation formation was also very complicated. The energy it absorbed came from the ice immortal vein, so there was no need to worry about the problem of energy. The old granny had been here by herself for many years. When she saw that Qin Yin was about to leave, she was extremely reluctant. "Grandma, I have a few magical beast crystal eggs here. If you can hatch the magical beast crystal eggs, the magical beasts that come out can also be your companions." Qin Yin took out a few magical beast crystal eggs and handed them to the old granny. "Thank you, Xiao Yun. You must give the Black Moon martial spirit to the young palace master," the old granny warned. And Qin Yin placed Mo into his storage space and stepped onto the teleportation array. "Goodbye, Grandma. We will definitely meet again." He waved goodbye to the old granny. "Take care." The old granny smiled kindly at him and waved her hand. The teleportation array opened and emitted a slight vibration. Qin Yin felt his vision turn white as he arrived at a very familiar place. Here, he could directly absorb the 9 suns' spiritual energy. He had returned to the martial desolate land. The teleportation array could only send him into the martial desolate land and did not specify where he would be teleported to. "Where am I? I have to quickly find someone to ask." He was in a hurry to return to the 9 extinction gate and have Jade Rabbit cure Feng Hong on. Qin Yin took out a compass. This was a small gift that Mu Feng had given him when he was in the Inscription Royal City. It could point out the nearby cities. Following the pointer on the compass, he used the power of the dragon-resisting boots and began to run at full speed. As long as he went to a city and determined the location, he would know how to head to the 9 extinction gate. After traveling for an entire night, Qin Yin rested for 2 hours when the sky was about to brighten. After resting, it was already morning. He took out the compass and determined the direction before continuing to fly in the air. After flying in the air for an hour, he suddenly sensed a very strong aura of a devil warrior in front of him. Why would there be devil warriors in this place? Could this be the vicinity of the thorny devil road? Qin Yin thought to himself before landing in the forest below and sneaking forward. There were many traces of people walking in this forest. It was obvious that people often walked here. Qin Yin carefully flew in the air as he sensed the demonic energy. He gradually approached it. Not long after, he saw many people standing in the forest in front of him. From afar, most of them were very young people. There are quite a few devil warriors. What the hell is going on? Qin Yun's heart was filled with doubts as he continued to approach. Soon, he discovered that the group of people in front of him were surrounding a few people. The people who were surrounded were a family of old and young. There was an old man and a middle-aged couple. They protected a youth in the middle, preventing him from being attacked. The old man and the middle-aged couple were all in the martial Dao realm, while the youth was in the martial body realm. Other than the youth, everyone else in the family was riddled with wounds. As for the few red-clothed youths, their faces were ferocious. At that moment, Qin Yun was about 100 meters away from the group of people. He more or less understood what was going on. He could not believe that there were so many devil sect disciples in the martial desolate land. Furthermore, this group of devil sect disciples were actually mixed with the righteous disciples of the martial desolate land. There were about 100 disciples of the righteous and demonic sections. They were all in the martial Dao realm, ranging from the first level of the martial Dao realm to the 5th level of the martial Dao realm. The disciples of your righteous sects should have long heard of the matter of us devil sect disciples eating people, but you've never seen it before, right? A tall and sturdy young man dressed in black said with a wild laugh. A disciple of a righteous sect said with a smile, I've heard of it since I was young, but I never had the chance to see it. There were dozens of devil sect disciples here. When they heard this, they immediately laughed out loud. We have a lot of ways to eat people. You will definitely see it often in the future. Now, I'll eat that brat. That old man and the 2 middle-aged men are too old. I can't eat them. The red-robed, demonic Dao disciple laughed heartily as he walked over. Qin Yun, who was hiding in the canopy of a tree, was stunned by the situation in front of him. From the looks of it, the relationship between the devil sect disciples and the disciples of the righteous sects was quite good. What happened in the martial desolate land in the past half a year? When Qin Yun saw that the devil sect disciples wanted to eat people, he was infuriated and hurriedly flew over. He landed in front of the tall and sturdy devil sect disciple. When the disciples saw a black-clothed youth suddenly appear and his strength was not ordinary, they were all somewhat surprised. Chapter 4:31. Slay the devil. Qin Yun looked coldly at the group of devil Dao disciples and said coldly, You bunch of devil Dao beasts are so arrogant even in the martial desolate. Could it be that the martial desolate has already been controlled by your devil Dao? The group of young disciples burst into laughter. You ran out from that ravine? Don't you know that Arid Triad has come to an agreement that we can travel with each other? We've come to an agreement that we will not be enemies with each other. Don't you see the disciples of the righteous and demonic paths are all together? Also, it is not allowed for you to insult our demonic path. You came here to seek death. Don't blame us. Arid Triad had actually made such a decision. Qin Yun could not accept such a thing. That was because the disciples of the demonic Dao were very brutal. Letting them walk in the martial desolate land was only letting them do evil everywhere. Then why are you eating people here? Since there is an agreement, then you devils should follow the rules. Qin Yun said coldly. We just don't want to be enemies with the disciples of the righteous sections. We don't care about the others. In any case, the various sects of the martial desolate land did not object to us eating people everywhere. Just don't eat their disciples. The demonic path disciples suddenly burst into sinister laughter. Qin Yun took a slight breath and said, I don't know what the sects of the martial desolate will decide. I only know that regardless of whether they are disciples of the demonic Dao or not, as long as they eat humans, they are demons and my enemy. Yo. Looks like you're also a disciple of a sect. Tell me, what sect are you from? What's your name? He won't dare to say it. If he dares to say it, we'll kill him immediately. Report your sect if you have the guts. We will definitely join forces and kill our way over. That's because the sects in the martial desolate have all promised not to be enemies with the devil sect. Hurry up and tell me which sect you are from. Are you afraid now? Don't worry, even if you don't say it. I will force you to say it." Not only were the demonic sect disciples hooting, but even the righteous sect disciples were also hooting. A saber suddenly appeared in Qin Yun's left hand and a few talismans in his right hand. The power of the heavenly lion in his left arm was already burning and boiling. He sent a voice transmission to the family behind him, telling them to wait and run if they saw the situation. A few demon martial artists also walked over. Qin Yun looked at the group of disciples and said coldly, "All of you listen up. I am Qin Yun of the 9 Extinction Gate." With that said, the broadsword in his hand began to dance wildly. Qin Yun, who is using the 6-style Wind Slayer, is like a god of war bursting with killing intent. When the disciples heard Qin Yun's name and saw the ferocious saber technique that Qin Yun used, they were all shocked. Boom, boom, boom. Every slash from Qin Yun could cut into the tall and sturdy body of the devil warrior. Furthermore, a violent explosion erupted, causing the body to explode into pieces. With a set of 6-style Wind Slayer, he killed more than 10 devil warriors in the vicinity. These devil warriors were all young martial Dao realm cultivators. They were rather important in the devil sect. Now, they had died in an instant. This scene caused the group of disciples to be dumbfounded. Didn't Qin Yun enter the ancient garden? Why are you here? Totem Pavilion and the Ming family are both offering a bounty on him. If we capture him alive, we can get 50 million purple coins. If we kill him, we could get 20 million. Not only Totem Pavilion and the Ming family, the Fire King sect, the mighty Heavenly Royal Clan, and the Overlord sect have also placed a bounty of tens of millions on him. Then why are you still talking nonsense? Hurry up and attack. He's only one person, and he's at least at the 2nd level of the martial Dao realm. We have 7 people at the 5th level of the martial Dao realm on our side. We can definitely take him down. After a moment of shock, the group of people immediately became excited as they charged at Qin Yun. Qin Yun never expected that he would be so valuable. When he saw the group of disciples charge at him, he felt fear as well. However, he had to buy some time for the old and young to run away. Qin Yun suddenly threw out the body, securing talisman. The dozens of people near him were immediately frozen. With a roar, he allowed the vibration martial spirit to attach itself to his body and then released the heavenly lion fighting dragon claw. He charged into the frozen crowd and used the 6-style Wind Slayer. Hoo. The heavenly lion fighting dragon claw was like a raging gale, emitting waves of roars that were filled with vibrations. Purplish gold flames and electric arcs shot out, enveloping the dozens of people. At that moment, Qin Yun was using the strongest power in his body to release his Dao energy to the limit. In just a few blinks of an eye, those martial Dao realm devil and martial Dao realm martial artists were all smashed into pieces by Qin Yun's heavenly lion fighting dragon claw. There was no lack of 3rd and 4th level martial Dao realm cultivators. There were even 2 5th level martial Dao realm cultivators. Previously, there were people who were annoyed that they did not charge fast enough, but now, when they saw the group of people charging forward turn to pieces, they were rejoicing in their hearts, but at the same time, they were also incomparably terrified. It's the body-securing talisman. Everyone, quickly stay away from him. Don't gather together. Someone shouted. Many people immediately dispersed. Why couldn't Qin Yun's body-securing talisman stop a large group of people at once? Qin Yun, you have killed so many disciples. You will definitely be hunted down by many disciples of the devil sects. You're dead today. Everyone, attack him from afar. Qin Yun gritted his teeth. He knew that the current situation was very disadvantageous to him. Although he had killed more than half of this group of people, there were still a few at the 5th level of the martial Dao realm. There were also more than a dozen at the 4th level of the martial Dao realm. He took out the dragon suppression cauldron and blocked a large portion of the attacks. He didn't have many body-securing talismans left in his hands. They were reserved for critical moments. When the group of people saw the corpses on the ground, they didn't dare to approach. If they were to surround and attack, they would definitely be killed by Qin Yun. At this moment, they could also expend Qin Yun's strength by attacking from afar. When Qin Yun saw that it was about time, he ran. Don't let him escape. Chase after him. He killed so many people, and we let him escape. We will definitely be laughed at. We're a big team. We can't let others laugh at us. If we can capture Qin Yun alive, we can get the bloodline aristocrat clan to buy him at a high price. The heavenly lion totem on his body is extremely expensive. Everyone shouted as they chased after him. They could tell that Qin Yun had fled because he knew he was no match for them. Qin Yun put on the dragon-resisting boots and sprinted through the air at an extremely fast speed. Only a 5th-level martial Dao realm cultivator could barely catch up to him. As he flew through the air, he took out the Finger City compass and looked at the formation. After confirming the direction, he also flew over with ease. The directions pointed to by the compass were all cities with Divine Inscription Palace. As long as he could reach the Divine Inscription Palace, he would be at ease. The Divine Inscription Palace that was built in the city would release an aura that could be sensed by the compass, allowing the Inscription Master to quickly reach the Divine Inscription Palace. When Qin Yun saw that the people behind him were not chasing too closely, he felt much more at ease. More than half a day passed, and it was evening. Qin Yun also saw a large hall in front of him. It stood alone on the flat ground in front of him. It was a Divine Inscription Palace. This was the first time Qin Yun had seen such a lone Divine Inscription Palace. He did not expect that the Divine Inscription Palace that the compass pointed to was not in the city. The Divine Inscription Palace was not too big. It was 5 or 6 stories tall, and the door was tightly shut. It was unknown if it was an abandoned Divine Inscription Palace. It's that Divine Inscription Palace. Don't let him pass. Qin Yun is an inscription master. If we let him enter the Divine Inscription Palace, there's nothing we can do. Quick, attack him. Many people fiercely attacked Qin Yun from behind. They were attacking the flying Qin Yun. Qin Yun's flying speed was extremely fast. He only needed to dodge left and right a few times to avoid it. The wave of attacks just now had also caused a series of explosions. The people inside the Divine Inscription Palace seemed to have been alarmed as they hurriedly opened the door. At this moment, the old-looking Divine Inscription Palace suddenly shone with a purple-gold light. The Grand Hall seemed to have suddenly come to life. It became resplendent and filled with an imposing aura. This was the activation of the Divine Inscription Palace's Great Formation. The previous wave of attacks produced a very strong energy fluctuation. When it was sensed by the Great Formation of the Divine Inscription Palace, the Great Formation automatically activated. I'm an inscription master. Quickly let me in. Qin Yun took out a platinum badge. A long-bearded old man walked out from the door. When he saw Qin Yun, he exclaimed, "Qin Yun, Grandpa Zhua." Qin Yun did not expect it to be Zhua Chuan. Furthermore, Duan Qian was beside Zhua Chuan. Zhua Chuan hurriedly closed the array and pulled Qin Yun into the Divine Inscription Palace before closing the door. After Qin Yun entered the Divine Inscription Palace, he heaved a long sigh of relief. He sat on the ground and looked at the deserted hall. He did not expect Zhua Chuan and Duan Qian to be here. "Seniors, I've finally met you," Qin Yun said with a happy smile. "Qin Yun, you've caused so much trouble. You should keep a low profile," Zhua Chuan said with a smile. "I never thought that the bounty offered by those great powers would be so useful. There are so many people chasing after you," Duan Qian said. Qin Yun shook his head and took a deep breath before telling Zhua Chuan and company the whole story. Zhua Chuan sighed. It's mainly because the great powers of the Martial Desolate want to go to the magical Beast Desolate land to extract beast oil. That's why they're open to each other. Although the sect masters of the Devil Dao sects have all promised not to harm the people of the Martial Desolate land. But the disciples of the Devil Dao are so savage and used to doing evil. There's no way to restrain them. Qin Yun said with a cold snort. "As long as I can defeat these devils, I'll kill them one by one." "Qin Yun, didn't you enter the ancient garden? It said that it will take a year to come out. Why are you out now?" Duan Qian asked curiously. "There was an accident," Qin Yun said with a wave of his hand. Duan Qian and Zhuochuan also knew that they could not speak of the matters in the ancient garden, so they did not pursue the matter. What is this place? How long will it take to return to the 9 Extinction Gate? Qin Yun said. Zhuochuan said, this is a wasteland in the northern region. Originally, even birds wouldn't shit here, but in the past 6 months, many meteorites have fallen here. There are many life marks crystal jades in the meteorites, so they attracted many people. Qin Yun said with a frown. Could it be that those fellows are also here to look for the life marks crystal jade? Definitely. Those meteorites are all very strange. Some of the large meteorites even have very powerful beasts inside them. Even those at the spirit realm have been killed. Duan Qian said. Chapter 432. Jade Rabbit Detoxification. Qin Yun did not care about the life marks crystal jade. He only wanted to quickly return and detoxify Fenghong Lan. After that, he would wait for Zi Qingsheng to come to the 9 Extinction Profound Gate and have her bring Yang Shiryu over. Qin Yun, let's escort you out, Zhuochuan said. Zhuochuan was only at the 5th level of the martial Dao realm. Even he was not a match for those people outside. However, with him protecting Qin Yun, those people did not dare to act recklessly. If he killed someone from the Divine Inscription Palace, he would be hunted down by them. Qin Yun was only a certified inscription master of the Divine Inscription Palace. He could not be considered a member of the Divine Inscription Palace, so those people were not afraid. If they killed Qin Yun, they could hide in those great powers and wait a few hundred years before coming out. Qin Yun took a map and nodded. He said, when are we leaving? The sooner the better. Let's leave from above. Just as Zhuochuan finished speaking, the door opened. 2 blue-robed men walked in. One of them was Lan Huayu, who had a young face but a head full of white hair. The other was an ordinary-looking middle-aged man wearing a bamboo hat. He was the Grand Palace Master of Blue Spirit Star Palace, Lan Shun. When Qin Yun saw Lan Shun, he curled his lips and said, Big Baldy, why did you abandon Blue Spirit Star Palace and run away? Well, it's my fault. I never thought that I would lose. Lan Shun smiled awkwardly. Congratulations. After coming out of the Inscription Gate, you are now the Sect Master of the Inscription Gate. But the Blue Spirit Star Palace is gone. What's the point of me being the Sect Master of the Inscription Gate? Qin Yun said unhappily. Let's not talk about this anymore. No matter what, we will always be disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Although we have joined the various sects, we will still be able to rebuild Blue Spirit Star Palace in the future. Lan Shun said. Lan Huayu and Lan Shun had naturally heard of what had happened after Qin Yun entered the martial desolate land. Now that they saw Qin Yun here, they were very surprised. They thought that Qin Yun was in an ancient garden. The people outside are all here to kill you? Lan Huayu asked. HM, those guys want to kill me and exchange me for the bounty. Qin Yun gritted his teeth in anger and said angrily, I really want to go out and kill them one by one. Lan Shun was at the spirit martial realm. With him here, Zhuochuan and the others felt much more at ease. Lan Shun is not from Divine Inscription Palace. He and Xia Wufeng joined a Xian sect that cultivates Sword Dao. Lan Huayu entered the Divine Inscription Palace. Qin Yun, I'm the general director here. I just received a message from the upper echelons of the Divine Inscription Palace, saying that I can't protect you. Lan Huayu said with a frown. It's the spirit martial realm outside. If Qin Yun runs out, he will definitely die. Lan Shun said with puzzled expression. Qin Yun is a young inscription master. Is your Divine Inscription Palace brain damaged? To give up such a good inscription master. Zhuochuan's face was also filled with anger as he said, Old Lan, did the Divine Inscription Palace really say that? Why? With the strength of the Divine Inscription Palace, they should not be afraid of the bloodline aristocrat family in Totem Pavilion. Lan Huayu sighed and shook his head. I don't know either. I just received the message. Furthermore, the Divine Inscription Palace will not recognize Qin Yun as an inscription master. The various Divine Inscription Palace will not be able to protect Qin Yun. Qin Yun suddenly thought of the reason why he did not enter the ancient garden. The Divine Inscription Palace was in charge of organizing the selection of the qualifications to enter the ancient garden. However, because of the problem with the pass, Qin Yun had gone to another ancient garden. In the ancient garden, there must be other important things for him to do, but he was absent. This made him unable to help, but let his imagination run wild. He secretly guessed that for many years, the reason why the Divine Inscription Palace had selected some third-level martial Dao realm cultivators to enter the ancient garden was to search for the Sun Soul. Because the ancient garden had been sealed by the Spirit Desolate, only martial artists with no more than 3 great Dao life marks could enter. The people in the 3 desolate lands did not know about the fall of the Sun Soul, but it was very likely that the Divine Inscription Palace from the Spirit Desolate would know. Could it be that because of me, they were unable to obtain the Sun Soul? Is it why they are angry? Qin Yun thought to himself. This was only his guess. No one knew the specifics. Lan Chun said, "Old Lan, Qin Yun is the sect leader of our inscription gate. The star and moon inscription he has mastered is something that even the Divine Inscription Palace does not have. Regarding these matters, you'd better not leak it to the Divine Inscription Palace." Zhuo Chuan, Duan Qian, and Lan Huayu also nodded their heads. Although they were all from the Divine Inscription Palace, they had a good relationship with Qin Yun. They had never revealed anything about Qin Yun to the upper echelons of the Divine Inscription Palace. Lan Chun said, "Qin Yun, I am not from Divine Inscription Palace. I will escort you out. Old Lan, you are not in a hurry to leave the Divine Inscription Palace. You must properly stay in the Divine Inscription Palace and provide us with reliable information. This Divine Inscription Palace is definitely not protecting Qin Yun because of benefits." Lan Huayu nodded. It's possible that the Inscription Palace also believes that Qin Yun is unable to break the Black Soul curse. That's why they don't think highly of him. Lan Chan said with smile, "Other people have no way to break Black Soul Devil curse, but Qin Yun is different. The star and moon runes he mastered are very formidable. They will surely help him break through." Qin Yun said, "Can we leave late at night?" "Sure." Lan Huayu said, "It's getting dark now. It'll be late at night soon." Qin Yun also rested well during this period of time. Late at night, the entire Divine Inscription Palace was surrounded. There are actually more than 2,000 people surrounding the Divine Inscription Palace. Lan Qin said, "There are more and more people outside. Fortunately, there aren't many spirit martial realm cultivators." At night, Qin Yun could use shadow power to hide himself in the darkness. Even without Lan Qin's escort, he could safely leave the Divine Inscription Palace. "Lan Chun, is the pattern on your head a totem rune?" Qin Yun asked. "Of course it is. That's something I was born with. Don't spread this matter. I don't want to be targeted by Totem Pavilion." Lan Qin said. "What totem is it?" Qin Yun is very curious. Lan Chun felt that Qin Yun's gaze is strange. He said, "Star Totem, don't have any ideas about me. Time is of the essence. When I have time in the future, I want to borrow your Star Totem." Qin Yun said with a chuckle. He could let Mo copy Lan Qin's totem without harming him. However, it would take a lot of time. Let's talk about it later. Lan Chun is also somewhat worried that Qin Yun would act recklessly. Qin Yun paced back and forth in the Great Hall of the Divine Inscription Palace and said, "How about this? You go out and lure those people away. I'll leave by myself. Is that all right? You're still being chased so closely in broad daylight." Zhuo Chuan said worriedly, "I can hide in the darkness at night. There's no problem." Qin Yun said with a smile. Zhuo Chuan and company did as Qin Yun said. After discussing, they left the Divine Inscription Palace and flew in a certain direction at an extremely fast speed. Many people thought that it was a spirit martial realm cultivator who was escorting Qin Yun away and immediately chased after him. Just as there were very few people left, Qin Yun, who had hidden himself in the darkness, quietly left the Divine Inscription Palace and ran in the direction of the 9 Extinction Gate. Although there were still a few hundred people outside the Divine Inscription Palace, they did not notice Qin Yun. Qin Yun smoothly left the Divine Inscription Palace and embarked on the road back to the 9 Extinction Gate. After half a month of traveling, Qin Yun finally returned to the Nine Extinction Gate. At dusk, the bright red light of the 9 suns enveloped the 9 huge pillars, causing the 9 pillars that were engraved with the totem of the sun to appear even more mysterious. The person who came out to open the formation was Wei Zhongjing. Little Yun, I heard that the time you spend in an ancient garden is not less than a year. Why did you come back half a year earlier? Wei Zhongjing said. He had long known about Qin Yun's return. Sect Master, the Divine Inscription Palace will no longer protect me in the future, Qin Yun said with a serious expression. I've heard of this as well. I've already asked Mu Feng about the specific reason. He said that he will come to the 9 Extinction Gate in a while and discuss this matter with us in detail. Wei Zhongjing sighed and patted Qin Yun on the shoulder. Don't worry, there's still us. No matter what, the 9 Extinction Gate is your home. Qin Yun's heart immediately warmed as he said anxiously, Sect Master, I found a way to cure the poison. Quickly take me to see Hong Lan. Is she all right? I gave her the red orchid martial spirit. I don't know how she did it, but she managed to create a double red orchid martial spirit. It's just that because the poison is accumulating more and more, her current condition is very bad, and she is unable to cultivate normally. Wei Zhongjing hurriedly pulled Qin Yun and flew to the medicine garden. He said helplessly, the poison in her body is too strong and has exceeded my expectations. It's getting harder and harder to suppress. Feng Honglan had been living in the small bronze building in the medicine garden and was taken care of by Yuan Yinying. When Qin Yun arrived at the medicine garden, he saw Yuan Yinying's worried expression. She looked very sad. Yinying, what's wrong? The moment Qin Yun arrived, Yuan Yinying threw herself into Qin Yun's arms. Sister Honglan's situation is getting worse and worse. Brother, quickly save her. Yuan Yinying sobbed softly. Qin Yun hurriedly said, Don't worry, I rushed back to save her. When Yuan Yinying heard this, she hurriedly brought Qin Yun and Wei Zhongjing to her room. Feng Honglan, who was lying on the bed, had her eyes slightly open. Her entire body was pitch black and emitted a black aura. Qin Yun hurriedly took out Jade Rabbit and woke her up. Jade Rabbit had been asleep for a long time and was currently extremely hungry. Only after absorbing more than 10 magical beast crystal eggs did it begin. When the weak Feng Honglan saw Qin Yun, her eyes were filled with joy. She said in a low voice, Qin Yun, I'm very happy to be able to see you one last time. Don't say such silly words. You'll definitely be fine. Qin Yun smiled. Jade Rabbit bit Feng Honglan's wrist with its teeth and began absorbing the poison in her body. Brother, will this little rabbit be all right? Those poisons are very powerful. Yuan Yinying could also tell that the Jade Rabbit was extraordinary. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for it to absorb so many magical beast crystal eggs so quickly. Wei Zhongjing also watched in astonishment from the side. This was because the Jade Rabbit had absorbed a lot of poisonous blood, but it was completely fine. Sect Master, can you help me buy more magical beast crystal eggs? I want 1,000, Qin Yun said. This Jade Rabbit was a Xian beast, and it took a lot of effort to raise it. All right, I'll let the elders do it. Wei Zhongjing hurriedly left. At this moment, he felt much more at ease. The Jade Rabbit absorbed the poison very quickly. Feng Honglan's entire body was originally emitting black gas, and there were many black spots on her skin, but now they were gradually disappearing. This made Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan very happy. Qin Yun also gradually relaxed. Chapter 433. Grave of the Immortal. After Wei Zhongjing walked in, he said with a smile, Yinying, Moon Profound Valley sect leader, old Madame Du, is outside watching the flag array. Go out and demonstrate it to her. All right. Yuan Yinying hurriedly walked out. She had long heard of old Madame Du's name, but she had never had the chance to meet her. Zi Qingqing's beautiful face originally had an enchanting smile, but the moment she saw Qin Yun, she became somewhat angry. In her eyes, Qin Yun was a very mischievous brat who always wanted to pinch her face. You guys take your time. I'll go out and accompany old Madame Du for a stroll, Wei Zhongjing said with a smile before running toward the medicine garden. Zi Qingcheng looked at the haggard Feng Honglan on the bed and asked with some heartache, "How is her poison? It will gradually get better." Qin Yun said with a smile, "Sister Steamed Bun, she's the #1 beauty of the northern region. She's much prettier than you, the #1 beauty of the northern region." Zi Qingqing knew that as long as she was with Qin Yun, she had to be prepared to be angry. She rolled her eyes at Qin Yun and snorted, "I won't lower myself to your level." Feng Honglan chuckled, "Senior brother, don't say that." Back then, Sister Qingsheng was a beauty whose name shook the 4 prefectures of the martial desolate. Not only is she devastatingly beautiful, but her martial talent and other aspects are also very strong. Really? Maybe at that time, there weren't many good-looking people, Qin Yun said with a smile. Feng Honglan quickly said no. Back then, there were bloodline martial artists who fought over Sister Qingsheng, causing 2 bloodline aristocratic families to become enemies. Furthermore, there are many young elites in the martial desolate land who have stirred up a storm of blood for Sister Qingsheng. They have been fighting each other for several years. Qin Yun looked at Zi Qingsheng in disbelief and said in surprise, "Sister Steam Bun, is this true? You've really made me see you in a different light. As long as I keep a high profile, even now, a large group of old men in the spirit martial realm will fight for me." Zi Qingsheng had a complacent look on her face. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, pushing her chest up high. Her aura immediately became very fierce. When Qin Yun saw her smug look, he could not help but reach out and pinch her beautiful face. He said with a smile, "Sister Steam Bun, your face is indeed the easiest to pinch in the northern region." Zi Qingsheng immediately bared her teeth and extended her hand to rub Qin Yun's face. Then, the 2 of them started playing around with each other. Feng Honglan, who was lying on the bed, was in a daze. She never thought that a woman like Zi Qingsheng would actually fight with Qin Yun like a hooligan. A moment later, Zi Qingsheng's hair was also messy and her clothes were disheveled. She was gasping for breath. She realized that no matter how she fought with Qin Yun, she would be at a disadvantage. Just now, Qin Yun had eaten a lot of his tofu. "Let's talk business." Zi Qingsheng tidied her hair and snorted, "I brought Grandma due to see the 9-colored spirit rain formation. How much is this formation? Where is Sister Lan? You didn't bring her here." Qin Yun said, "You have to promise me that you will let Sister Lan join the 9 Extinction Profound Gate. Otherwise, there's no need to talk about it." "No problem. Feng Jin is in seclusion to break through to the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. When she breaks through, I will send her over." Zi Qingsheng said, "The 9-colored spirit rain formation is indeed not bad. Tell me how you want to sell it first." Feng Honglan had been in the medicine garden for half a year. She also knew that the 9-colored spirit rain was a formation that only a king-level sect had. Furthermore, it was set up by Qin Yun. She was very surprised at that time. "Let Grandma Do give you to me, and I'll help the Moon Profound Valley create a 9-colored spirit rain formation," Qin Yun said with a smile. "This way, when I'm bored, I can pinch your face." Zi Qingsheng was taken aback. She never expected Qin Yun to have such thoughts. She had thought that Qin Yun would want a lot of purple coins or something else. "Well, it's not impossible. For the sake of the Moon Profound Valley, I'm willing to sacrifice myself." Zi Qingsheng gritted her teeth and made a difficult decision. Her beautiful face was filled with helplessness. Qin Yun gently patted her face and said with a smile, "I'm just joking. You don't have much value, so what's the use of you? Purple coins are still more practical." Zi Qingqing's jade-like hands trembled. She really wanted to slap him. She had already agreed to give herself away. She never expected that Qin Yun was actually teasing her. It infuriated her to death. Feng Honglan was also astonished. A beauty like Zi Qingsheng had once caused the disciples of a bloodline aristocrat clan to fight. Yet, Qin Yun despised her in all sorts of ways. Zi Qingcheng was also so angry that she stomped her feet. She ground her teeth as she looked at Qin Yun, wishing that she could eat him up. 100 million purple coins, Qin Yun said with a smile. Too expensive, 80 million. Zi Qingcheng immediately arrived. Sister Steam Bun, although you're nothing much, I think you're still worth 100 million purple coins. If you offer 80 million purple coins, isn't that admitting that you're only worth 80 million? Qin Yun curled his lips. Zi Qingcheng immediately cursed in the star formation. At this moment, old Madame Du, who was dripping wet, also walked in. She was dressed in white and leaning on a walking stick. With a happy smile on her face, she asked, Qingcheng, how's the price? Grandma Du, I offer a price of 130 million, but Sister Qingcheng lowered it to 110 million. Qin Yun muttered, the 9-colored spirit rain formation is very difficult to set up. Your Xian sect has the chance to obtain such a formation, yet you're still bargaining with me. Zi Qingcheng's beautiful eyes widened. She wished that she could pinch Qin Yun's face ruthlessly. She shouted, didn't you say 100 million? Qin Yun said, Grandma Du, look, she's going to 100 million again. All right, since your moon profound valley is filled with women, 100 million is 100 million. We have a deal. Grandma Du frowned because this had exceeded her expectations. She had originally thought that she would be able to get it for 90 million. Feng Honglan was stunned. This was the first time she had seen someone raise the price like this. Since that's the case, let's make a deal. Grandma Du also nodded. Originally, she was very confident that she could take it for 80 million, but now, Qin Yun had forcefully taken it for 100 million. Qin Yun was in urgent need of purple coins to activate the sun-gathering formation. That was because it would allow him to quickly step into the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. Therefore, he thickened his skin and asked for more purple coins. Wei Zhongjing said with a smile, don't look at how our 9-extinction profound gate has a martial king like me. We are actually very poor. And the wealth of your moon profound valley is one of the best amongst the Xian sections. You have been keeping a low profile for many years and have been silently making a fortune. I know this very well. When Qin Yun heard this, he felt somewhat vexed that he did not ask for more purple coins. When will it be delivered? Grandma Du asked. About 2 months. Can you pay me 100 million purple coins first? Qin Yun said with a smile. I'm in dire need of purple coins right now. As you all know, I have 2 martial spirits and a black one at that. It consumes a lot of resources. Grandma Du nodded. She could understand Qin Yun as well. She took out a purple card and gave Qin Yun 100 million purple coins. Zi Qingcheng said worriedly, Brat, can you really step into the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm? The inscription palace has given up on you. Grandma Du sighed and looked at Qin Yun. She said, I've heard some news. Totem Pavilion and a few bloodline aristocrat families have given the inscription palace a lot of benefits to make them give up on protecting you. Maybe the inscription palace thinks that you really can't break through and that the benefits placed in front of them are great. So they chose to give up on you. Wei Zhongjing said, the benefits that the inscription palace has their eyes on should be the ancient desolate arcane domain. Totem Pavilion and the bloodline aristocrat families controlled many ancient desolate arcane domains. It is very possible that they gave a few ancient desolate arcane domains to the inscription palace. All right, Secmaster Wei, have you heard? In the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range, they found a very large ancient desolate arcane domain. In this desolate arcane domain, there is a huge immortal tomb, like a very large city. Grandma Du suddenly said, I haven't heard of it. Wei Zhongjing hurriedly asked, when did this happen? Grandma Du said, it looks like they didn't invite you. However, this is normal. After all, your 9-extinction profound gate has so many enemies, and you even have a bloodline aristocrat family that definitely won't let you go. Zi Qingcheng continued. They said that when the people who went to the ancient garden come out, they will head to the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range together and enter the ancient desolate arcane domain. Qin Yun secretly felt that there were many reasons why he had been abandoned by the Inscription Palace. Firstly, it was because he had not entered the ancient garden. Secondly, he had a black martial spirit and was unable to break through. Thirdly, he had too many enemies. This would also cause the Inscription Palace to weaken in the martial desolate land. Fourthly, the bloodline aristocrat family in Totem Pavilion had given a lot of benefits to the Inscription Palace. The reason why the bloodline aristocrat family in Totem Pavilion wanted to capture him was also because of his heavenly lion totem and dragon suppression cauldron. Those were extremely precious items. Since they didn't invite us, then we won't join in on the fun. The immortal tombs in the Cloud Dragon Mountain range are all very strange. They might even die inside. Wei Zhongjing said. It's said that they will gather 50 martial kings and 100 Xian realm cultivators this time, and bring their juniors in. If the 3 desolate lands join hands, their safety should be guaranteed. Grandma Du smiled and said, when the time comes, Qin Sheng and I will go as well. Although Qin Yun did not say it, he had already decided to go. He had to confirm if that immortal tomb was related to Xia Qiru. Then I'll make the best use of my time to create that formation for you, Qin Yun said. All right, Grandma Du said with a happy smile. Their moon-profound valley would soon have a king-level sex great array. Qin Yun asked Zi Qinsheng to stay behind to help. He also asked Grandma Du to bring Xiao Yuel on, Yang Shiyu, and the others over in 2 months. Following that, Zi Qinsheng was like a servant, being ordered around by Qin Yun to do all sorts of work. It was a good thing that she had a good personality. Otherwise, she would have constantly complained. There were also Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan here. They also joined in to help. Feng Honglan's poison had completely healed. At this moment, she was extremely spirited. She wore a pure white dress, looking holy and beautiful. Especially when her face was filled with a happy smile, it was bright and moving. Even Zi Qinsheng thought that Feng Honglan was prettier than her. Qin Yun spent half a month to create the flag array. This caused Zi Qinsheng to curse in her heart. Qin Yun had previously said that he would need 2 months to complete it, but now it was so fast. Zi Qinsheng originally wanted to return, but she was left behind by Qin Yun to continue working as a helper. This was because Qin Yun still had to forge royal grade spirit talismans, royal grade spirit artifacts, as well as various talisman arrays and talisman weapons. Chapter 434. Balance of 3 souls. Zi Qinsheng had also seen that Qin Yun had a high-ranked Spirit Inscription Master badge. That was why she was very willing to help. Otherwise, she, the former #1 beauty of the northern region, would not have done such hard work. Other than Qin Yun, there was no one else who could make the #1 beauty of the northern prefecture of 2 generations work for them. Senior brother, where's Little Rabbit? Why didn't you release her? Feng Honglan didn't know the exact situation of Jade Rabbit. She only knew that Jade Rabbit was sleeping. She better not wake up, or else she'll have to eat a magical beast crystal egg every day. When you need her, wake her up and feed her some magical beast crystal eggs, Qin Yun said. Feng Honglan said in surprise, so that's how it is. I didn't expect Little Bunny to be so miraculous and easily detoxified the poison for me. Of course, Qin Yun said with a smile. Zi Qinsheng had helped Qin Yun here for a month, and she had worked hard without complaint. Of course, she also gained a lot and knew that being an inscription master was not easy. Big Sis Steam Bun, it seems like you're having a good time, so why don't you stay for another month? I'm going to try to refine a Xian artifact, Qin Yun said with a smile. Do you want to witness the first Xian artifact I refine? Yuan Yinying, who was taking care of the spirit herbs, hurriedly ran over when she heard this. Brother, is this true? Are you preparing to refine a profound weapon? Over the past few days, Qin Yun had refined 2 royal-grade spirit weapons. He was very familiar with refining royal-grade spirit weapons. He could take a step further and attempt to refine a Xian artifact. I want to help too. Feng Honglan was also looking forward to it. Her beautiful face was filled with a happy smile. All of you, plant the herbs properly. It's very hard to refine Xian artifacts. Qin Yun said with a smile. Sister Steam Bun is at the spirit martial realm. She's enough. Zi Qingsheng had originally planned to return, but when she heard that Qin Yun wanted to forge a Xian artifact, she immediately agreed to stay. Qin Yun was only 20 years old, and he was about to begin refining Xian artifacts. Zi Qingsheng also wanted to see if he could succeed. After saying that, Qin Yun and Zi Qingsheng entered a spacious secret room. Little brat, if you succeed, then can you help me refine a Xian artifact a little cheaper in the future? Zi Qingsheng asked coquettishly, looking very charming. She wore a plain white dress and didn't put much effort into it. However, she seemed to have a natural sexiness to her. Her red lips were slightly pursed, and as she looked around, the seductive look in her beautiful eyes was faintly discernible. It was an elegant yet extraordinary charm that was completely natural. This was the first time Qin Yun had seen such a Zi Qingsheng. He suddenly understood how this big Sister Steam Bun had stirred up a reign of terror back then. Sister Steam Bun, who are you and who are we? We are already so familiar with each other, yet you still want to seduce me. Qin Yun laughed loudly and said, I won't be hooked by you that easily. Zi Qingsheng snorted and said, You're good. I'm not afraid to tell you, other than the title of the Purple Succubus Enchantress. I also had another title, the Devastatingly Deadly Killer. A hero doesn't boast about his past achievements. Pour the power of the spirit martial realm into these Xian Yuan steel. Qin Yun took out a large pile of Xian Yuan steel and said, Zi Qingsheng, who was still feeling proud a moment ago, immediately became like a servant. She pouted her lips and helped Qin Yun do all sorts of things. Qin Yun took out the heavenly lion dragon suppression cauldron and filled it with beast oil. Then, he poured the Xian Yuan steel that had been infused with energy into it. He ignited the beast oil and began to burn the Xian Yuan steel. The beast oil contained a special energy, and the burning flames could make the Xian Yuan steel even more sturdy. Sister Steam Bun, don't worry. I can refine a Xian artifact. Not to mention giving you a cheaper one. It won't be a problem for me to give you one. Qin Yun grinned and said, Who told you to have such an easy-to-pinch little face? Zi Qingsheng was delighted. She happily stuck out her tongue at Qin Yun and asked, What kind of Xian artifact do you want to refine? I was going to refine a saber, but I'm missing a few materials. Therefore, I can only refine a special Xian artifact, the Xian Royal Cannon. Qin Yun said with a chuckle, This thing is really powerful. It's a good item for sneak attacks. The heavenly lion dragon suppression cauldron could strengthen the burning of flames. Especially after the beast oil was poured in, the flames burned even more fiercely. After the beast oil inside was burned, the pieces of Xian Yuan steel also turned red. Qin Yun took out the Xian Yuan steel and placed it on the forging platform. He used his Dao energy to execute the 6-style forging dragon and hammered the Xian Yuan steel with all his might. Zi Qingsheng watched from the side in a daze. That was because at that moment, Qin Yun seemed to be facing a difficult battle. He had fallen into a bitter battle from the very beginning. Bang, bang, bang. Qin Yun's violent 6-style forging dragon continued to forge the pieces of Xian Yuan steel into a single piece. Furthermore, he had to fold and forge them until the impurities were removed. Sister Steam Bun, quickly channel your energy to me. Qin Yun hurriedly shouted, I've consumed too much energy. All right. Zi Qingsheng never expected that Qin Yun would consume so much energy in just an hour. She could understand what she thought about it. After all, Qin Yun was only at the 2nd level of the martial Dao realm. Most of the people who could refine Xian artifacts were inscriptionists at the spirit realm or Xian martial realm. This was also the reason why Qin Yun needed Zi Qingsheng's help. Zi Qingsheng was at the spirit realm. She could channel her power to him and allow him to continue. 2 days passed. Qin Yun and Zi Qingsheng were exhausted and had no choice but to stop and rest. So difficult. Xian Yuan steel is so hard to forge. Zi Qingcheng was also recovering from her exhaustion as she exclaimed repeatedly, "Isn't that so? Don't worry, we will definitely succeed." Qin Yin smiled. To tell you the truth, if I were alone, I wouldn't be able to do it. The reason why he didn't want Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan's help was because they couldn't help him at all. Sister Steam Bun, if the Moon Profound Valley asks me for help in setting up any array formation, I'll get Grandma Do to give you to me. Qin Yin said with a laugh. I suddenly realized that you're quite useful. Zi Qingcheng snorted. Little brat, do you know how good your sister is? You even despised me so much before. After resting, Qin Yin poured beast oil into the dragon suppression cauldron to burn the large piece of Xian Yuan steel. After half a month of forging, Qin Yin finally created a beautiful black cannon barrel. It was just right for him to chop on his shoulder. The next step was to carve Xian runes. This was also very difficult. Fortunately, his comprehension of inscriptions was extremely high. Furthermore, with the help of the mental resonance Xian pen, his progress was relatively smooth. The only flaw was that he couldn't carve continuously. When inscribing Xian runes, it consumed a lot of energy, and he needed to borrow Zi Qingqing's power. Furthermore, every once in a while, they would have to rest. Especially Zi Qingcheng, she would often run out to take a bath. A month had passed. Qin Yun and Zi Qingcheng had finally completed a Xian artifact. Is this considered a success? Zi Qingcheng looked at the Xian royal cannon in disbelief. Of course it's a success, Qin Yun said with a smile. Thank you, Sister Steam Bun. Let me pinch you. Zi Qingcheng held the Xian royal cannon and looked at it carefully. She allowed Qin Yun to pinch her face. She was also very happy because she had participated in the process of refining a Xian artifact. She felt a great sense of accomplishment. Sister Steam Bun, when you want to refine a Xian artifact, just get the blueprints and materials and come find me. I'll help you refine it for free. Qin Yun said with a smile. That's what you said. Don't swindle me of my purple coins again. Zi Qingcheng pinched Qin Yun's handsome face and said with a charming smile, I must prepare the materials and blueprints as soon as possible. It wasn't that she didn't have her own Xian artifact. It was just that it wasn't easy to use. If it wasn't a Xian artifact that suited her, even if it was a high-grade Xian artifact, it would be difficult to unleash its power. Zi Qingcheng happily walked out of the room. Grandma Do had also come. She had brought Lan Fengjin along. Lan Fengjin wore a blue short-sleeved tight shirt, perfectly outlining the curves of her upper body. She wore a pair of very short pants, revealing a pair of slender, firm, and beautiful thighs. She was sexy and fiery, full of wildness. Her entire body exuded a kind of wild beauty. Where are Yuelon and Teacher Yang? Didn't they come? Qin Yun asked. They're cultivating and don't have time to come. Next time, Grandma Du said with a smile. Where's my flag array? Qin Yun glanced at Zi Qingcheng. Grandma Du also understood that the flag array was with Zi Qingcheng. I've left the method to her. You can go back and set up now. Qin Yun said with a smile. All right, let's go back and give it a try. Grandma Du was extremely excited as she excitedly pulled Zi Qingcheng out of the medicinal garden. Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan looked at Lan Fengjin with curiosity. Lan Fengjin was taller than them and had a wild and valiant beauty. Common women looked delicate and gentle, but it was very rare to see a woman like Lan Fengjin, who was fierce and wild, and also slightly charming. Honglan Yinying, this is my disciple, Lan Fengjin. You could just call her Sister Lan. From now on, she will be a disciple of our 9-extinction profound gate. Qin Yun said with a smile. Lan Fengjin also warmly greeted Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan. She had heard of Feng Honglan, but this was the first time she had seen her. As for Yuan Yinying, she was not familiar with her. Although Lan Fengjin was a masculine woman, she was still a woman. She quickly became acquainted with Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan and began talking about Qin Yun's matters at the borders. Qin Yun instructed Lan Fengjin and company on some matters before hurrying to find Wei Zhongjing. He had previously entrusted Wei Zhongjing with helping him exchange a large amount of purple coins at the Divine Inscription Palace. Wei Zhongjing also knew that Qin Yun wanted to use the purple coins to activate the array formation. He hoped that Qin Yun would succeed. Qin Yun obtained a large amount of purple coins from Wei Zhongjing. In the secret chamber, he used the sun gathering formation to draw in the power of the 9 suns to temper his body. Every month, he would have to spend more than 30 million purple coins to cultivate. Wei Zhongjing could only bring back 10 million each time, and he would need many storage spirit artifacts to store them. Qin Yun decided to head to the Cloud Dragon Mountain range and follow Zi Qingqing and company into the ancient desolate arcane domain. There were still 3 to 4 months left. He didn't know if he would be able to break through before then. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yun had used the sun gathering formation to cultivate for 3 months. 100 million purple coins had also been used up. I'm not far from breaking through. Qin Yun was extremely excited. However, he felt that he was still lacking something. The 3 martial spirits were unable to reach a uniform state. That's right. I should take advantage of this opportunity to turn the purple gold thunder flame martial spirit into a black martial spirit. Only by evolving the 3 martial spirits together could they be balanced. Maybe I will have 3 divine abilities at that time. Qin Yun planned to borrow tens of millions of purple coins from Wei Zhongjing to reach the final step. Chapter 435. Heavenly Phenomenon. Qin Yun could clearly sense that his purple gold thunder martial spirit was close to the level of a black martial spirit. If he could successfully advance to the black martial spirit and then break through to the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm, he would be able to obtain another divine ability. Regardless of whether I can become a black martial spirit or not, I have to give it a try. In any case, it will make my martial spirit stronger in the end. Not only did he want to turn his martial spirit black, the most important thing was to carve the heavenly lion totem into his martial spirit. If his martial spirit had the heavenly lion totem, it would make his heavenly lion arm even stronger. This was also the first time he had carved the heavenly lion totem into his martial spirit. Qin Yun first allowed his martial spirit to leave his arm and float in front of him. Then, he held the mental resonance Xian pen in his hand and used the Beast King inscription spirit inside to condense a special power before inscribing the heavenly lion totem. When inscribing the heavenly lion totem, the mental resonance Xian pen could consciously absorb the energy in Qin Yun's body and condense a power that was even stronger than the power of the blood soul. Qin Yun was now able to smoothly inscribe spirit inscriptions. This was the profoundness of the Beast King inscription spirit. When he was inscribing the heavenly lion totem, he realized that he could still divert some of his energy to do other things. He picked out many soul-sealing pearls and placed them into the dragon suppression cauldron. He wanted to refine those martial spirits into a type of energy for his purple gold thunder fire martial spirit to absorb. Over the past few days, he had collected quite a few martial spirits, and there were many powerful martial spirits among them. The higher the cultivation of the martial spirit, the stronger the martial spirit and the more energy it contained. I should be able to succeed. Qin Yun was extremely confident. Since he was in a breakthrough, he had to be thorough. He had to obtain a 3rd black martial spirit and break through in one fell swoop. A few days passed. In the secret chamber, Qin Yun was looking at the heavenly lion's arm that was overflowing with black gas. The heavenly lion's arm overflowed with waves of black lightning fire. Its aura was extremely berserk, very strong. Qin Yun was extremely excited. I've succeeded. Fortunately, my body is strong enough. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to withstand 3 black martial spirits. He had spent 100 million purple coins to temper his body. A body tempered by the power of the 9 suns was extremely terrifying. After Qin Yun succeeded, he ran out excitedly to find Wei Zhongjing and borrowed 30 million purple coins. The non-extinction profound gate was currently quite poor, but the sect also had a lot of purple crystal coins in reserve. 30 million purple crystal coins was still something the 9 extinction profound gate could afford. Qin Yun returned to the secret chamber and continued operating the sun-gathering array. He guided the power of the 9 suns to temper his body. Lan Fengjin is now following the second elder to learn some inscription knowledge, such as how to maintain a great formation. One had to know that Lan Fengjin was currently the 3rd inscription master in the 9 extinction profound gate. Feng Honglan and Yuan Yining both had variant martial spirits. Before their cultivation reached the spirit realm, their red variant martial spirits could not unleash any special power. After cultivating for a month, Qin Yun fell into a state of deep sleep. He could not sense anything in the outside world. It was noon. However, the 9 suns in the sky were gradually turning black, just like a dog eating the sun. The edges of the suns were gradually turning black. All the 9 suns were the same. The powerful martial kings of the desolate triad were all alarmed. Even the old martial king, who had been in seclusion for many years, sensed the phenomenon in the sky and immediately came out of seclusion. In the major cities of the martial desolate, many martial artists walked onto the streets. Their faces were filled with fear as they looked at the 9 suns that were gradually turning black. An hour later, the 9 suns turned completely black. The world suddenly turned dark. Just as the major cities were in endless fear, another sun appeared in the sky. In the Hong Wu royal city, the Hong Ing martial king looked at the only sun that had suddenly appeared and said with a frown, "This is the 10th sun that had disappeared previously. Why has it appeared now? Father, has there been such a phenomenon recorded in history? What does this mean?" Hong Mengshu asked, "Is there going to be a disaster in the 9 desolate land?" Hong Ying shook his head and said, "I don't know what's going on either." Hong Yin said, "This sun is starting to turn black again." Indeed, the only sun in the sky was gradually turning black. The hidden 10th sun only appeared for a short moment before disappearing. As for the world, it once again fell into darkness. At the top of the inscription manor in the inscription royal city, there were more than 10 powerful martial kings. Among them, there were a few bloodline martial kings. They were all looking at the sky, their faces filled with astonishment. What does this phenomenon mean? Your inscription palace came from the spirit desolate land, so there should be relevant records, right? A middle-aged man said, "There is no record of such an astonishing phenomenon in the ancient books of our bloodline aristocrat clan." The martial king of the inscription palace frowned and said, "I'm not sure either. I'll have to go and ask. No matter what, we have to go to the immortal graveyard desolate domain in the Cloud Dragon Mountain range." A bloodline martial artist said, "Does the sudden appearance of this phenomenon mean that a great calamity is coming?" A martial king said worriedly, "Even if there is a disaster, it will be aimed at the 9 desolate lands. We will not be affected in the desolate domain." An old man laughed. In the Moon Palace, an old granny stood on the roof of a dilapidated building. She said excitedly, "Little Yun has succeeded. He has successfully broken through. This is the phenomenon caused by the successful evolution of the Nether Sun martial spirit." Qin Yun, who was in the secret chamber, was completely unaware of the phenomenon that had occurred outside. The 9 suns gradually recovered and once again appeared in the sky, illuminating the earth. The martial artists gathered in the various cities immediately burst into cheers. Previously, they were very worried that the martial desolate land would be swallowed by the darkness forever. Qin Yin woke up and looked at his 3 martial spirits. He looked at the 3rd life mark on the surface of the 3 Tao cores and revealed a satisfied smile. "I've finally succeeded. What black soul curse? I've broken it in just a few short months. Inscription Palace, you guys have really disappointed me." The people that Qin Yun had come into contact with before were all very good. For example, Zhuo Chuan and Duan Xian, as well as Mu Feng, who he had met later on, had all treated him very well. But now, the Inscription Palace was no longer protecting him. It didn't matter if the Inscription Palace did not protect him, but to revoke his qualifications as a Spirit Inscription Master was too much. Of course, He did not say that he was Qin Yin. He could still use that badge to enter and exit the major cities for free. The vibration martial spirit's divine ability is the earthquake divine ability. As long as I use it, I can cause a strong earthquake. Qin Yin could sense what his divine ability was. The thunder fire martial spirit's divine ability is the heavenly lion summoning technique. It can summon a nether realm heavenly lion. The nether sun martial spirit's divine ability is very special. It can devour any divine ability martial spirit. In addition, it can also sense the divine abilities of the 9 suns through the nether sun. This should be rather difficult. Qin Yin recalled the blue divine ability martial spirit he had obtained. It was the penetration divine ability. After using it, he could easily penetrate many things. He immediately took out the soul sealing pearl. He had kept all the better martial spirits. Qin Yin used the power of the nether sun's divine ability to easily absorb the penetration divine ability. That's right, there's also a variant martial spirit. That seems to be a divine ability that can make oneself transparent. He thought of the assassin from Totem Pavilion who tried to assassinate him. He took out the red soul sealing pearl, but was unable to succeed. Now, he was certain that the special power of the red variant martial spirit could not be considered a divine ability. Qin Yin grabbed the transparent soul sealing pearl and urged the power inside to make himself transparent. Then, he used the penetration divine ability to penetrate the wall of the secret room. When he penetrated it, he felt like he was passing through a refreshing breeze. It was very comfortable. Qin Yin excitedly passed through the wall and arrived at a room. He saw Lan Fengjin preparing to take off her clothes. Lan Fengjin's entire body was dripping wet, and she was wearing very little. This made her wild and fiery body even more alluring. Her long hair hung down on her chest, making her look somewhat charming. "Sister Lan." Qin Yin immediately appeared and shouted. When Lan Fengjin saw Qin Yin suddenly appear in her room, she was also shocked. She snorted and said, "Master, why are you here? I was just about to change my clothes. You're too bad." Qin Yin said with a chuckle, "Your master, I broke the Black Soul Curse and obtained a new ability, so I gave a try. I didn't expect to come to you so quickly. Sister Lan, if I was really that bad, I would have continued to hide it just now." When Lan Fengjin heard that, she ran over happily and asked excitedly, "Master, are you at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm now?" "That's right," Qin Yin said with a smile. "I'm very strong now." Lan Fengjin did not doubt Qin Yin's words at all. She was also very shocked. This was because Qin Yin had just stepped into the 2nd level of the martial Dao realm not long ago. Now, he was at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. Ignoring the fact that Qin Yin had a black martial spirit, it would not be easy for an ordinary person to step into the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm so quickly. However, Qin Yin had done it. Of course, Qin Yin had previously obtained a 1,000-pound 3rd stage life mark crystal jade. When he was in the secret chamber, he had placed the life mark crystal jade beside him to absorb it. This could also help him break through quickly. After Qin Yin cultivated the 3rd life mark, his inner force could be converted into the power of the great Dao even faster. Furthermore, it had become even stronger. Using a divine ability required the use of the power of the great Dao, and the consumption was enormous. Not long after he used the penetrating divine art, he had already consumed 10% of his inner force. "Master, you don't know. Just now, there was a natural disaster outside, and the 9 suns suddenly disappeared." Lan Fengjin hugged Qin Yin's arm and pulled him outside. "Sister Lan, don't spread the news of my breakthrough. I'm only telling the sect leader and the elders. Only you and Yinying know about it," Qin Yin said. Yuan Yinying was controlling the 9-colored spirit rain formation from the outside. When she saw Qin Yin come out, she hurriedly ran over and told him about the shocking phenomenon. However, when she learned that Qin Yin had broken through, she immediately forgot about the phenomenon and cheered happily. "All right, I'm going to find a sect leader. Remember, don't tell anyone about my breakthrough," Qin Yin warned with a smile. "Got it, brother. I'm not that kind of gossipy woman." Yuan Yinying smiled tenderly. Qin Yin suddenly felt that the phenomenon had something to do with him. That was because it happened to appear at the same time as his nether sun martial spirit was evolving. Chapter 436. Shui Tianzi Qin Yin came to a house and saw Wei Zhongjing wearing a short suit. He was sitting on a table in the courtyard, seriously reading a book. Sect Master, Qin Yin shouted happily. Little Yin, I haven't seen you for a few months. How's your closed-door cultivation going? Wei Zhongjing said with a smile. You're so happy. Have you made any progress? Qin Yin looked around and nodded. I've successfully broken through. Wei Zhongjing hurriedly put down the book and looked at Qin Yin in disbelief. Is this true? Why can't I sense your aura at the third level of the martial Dao realm? I've hidden it. Qin Yin chuckled. After his nether sun martial spirit evolved, it could firmly absorb the aura in his body and not release it. Even a martial king like Wei Zhongjing was unable to sense it. Wei Zhongjing hurriedly brought Qin Yin into the house and asked in a deep voice, Did you break through just now? Qin Yin said, and Sect Master, was the phenomenon that appeared earlier related to my breakthrough? Wei Zhongjing paced back and forth in the room with a serious expression. He seemed to be thinking about something. He pondered for a moment and said, It seems like the phenomenon that appeared just now has a lot to do with your breakthrough. Why did such a phenomenon occur when I broke through? Isn't this too big of a commotion? Qin Yin had only suspected it previously, but now that he heard Wei Zhongjing's words, he found it hard to believe. I'm not sure what the exact reason is yet. The timing just now was too coincidental. There must be a connection. Wei Zhongjing said, This should be related to your nether sun martial spirit. Qin Yin nodded. His nether sun martial spirit was indeed very strange and could not be viewed with common sense. Wei Zhongjing said with a smile, Since you've successfully broken through, I don't need to read all kinds of books all day to find a way. It's been hard on you, Sect Master. Qin Yin said with a chuckle. I will work hard and quickly earn enough purple coins to return it to you. It's only 30 million purple coins. You don't have to worry about it. We haven't thanked you for helping us set up the 9-colored spirit rain formation. Wei Zhongjing said with a smile. The rainbow spirit rain formation was worth hundreds of millions of purple crystal coins. Furthermore, it would bring great benefits to the 9-extinction profound gate in the future. Wei Zhongjing was also filled with emotion. The last time Qin Yin broke through to the second level of the martial Dao realm, he was also present. That scene seemed to have happened yesterday. However, not long after, Qin Yin had broken the Black Soul Curse and stepped into the third level of the martial Dao realm. Xiao Yun, you broke through so quickly, I was also worried that your foundation would be unstable. Wei Zhongjing said, You cultivate 3 Dao cores, and you also have a black martial spirit. However, your breakthrough speed is even faster than cultivating a single martial spirit. Qin Yin scratched his head and said with a smile, I used the array formation to draw on the power of the 9 suns to temper my body. That cost more than 100 million purple coins. You know your own situation the best. Maybe I'm thinking too much. Wei Zhongjing smiled. In the coming days, I also have to go into seclusion for a period of time. Qin Yin left Wei Zhongjing's mansion and returned to the herb garden. As soon as he arrived, a faint and peculiar fragrance drifted over. It was the unique fragrance of Zi Qingsheng, very similar to the purple immortal dew. Sister Steam Bun, you're here. Qin Yin walked into the bronze building and saw Zi Qingsheng wearing a black robe. She was sitting in the hall with a black veil covering her face. She was dressed mysteriously. He was somewhat disappointed that he did not see Xiao Yuelan and Yang Shuriyue. Yuelan and the others didn't come? Zi Qingsheng stood up and said, They are all in seclusion to break through to the second level of the martial Dao realm. When they come out, I will bring them here. Brat, are you sure you want to follow us to the immortal graveyard desolate domain? Qin Yin and Zi Qingsheng had previously agreed to forge artifacts in the secret chamber. Qin Yin hurriedly nodded. This might be a little inconvenient. The people of our Moon Profound Valley are all female disciples. It's not good for me to bring a man like you along. Zi Qingcheng smiled mischievously. How about this? You dress up and dress up as a woman. When Lan Fengjin and Feng Honglan heard this, they covered their mouths and chuckled. Master, don't worry. With Honglan and Sister Qingcheng, the two #1 beauties of the northern region, we will definitely be able to dress you up into a peerless beauty. Lan Fengjin was grinning from ear to ear. Zi Qingcheng also said with a charming smile, Little brat, your foundation is not bad. After dressing up, you will definitely become a great beauty. Qingyun rolled his eyes at them and curled his lips. I won't do it, even if you beat me to death. Sister Steam Bun, just say that I'm a follower or something. In any case, you once left the Moon Profound Valley, so it's normal for you to have a follower. That's not good because the status of a follower is too low. Other people are definitely not allowed to bring followers into a place like the desolate domain. How about this? I'll tell them that you're my male pet. How about it? Zi Qingcheng covered her mouth and laughed. No problem. Then how should I serve you tonight? Qingyun smiled mischievously. You still want to pretend to be real? Zi Qingcheng snorted and said, No way. After the discussion, Qingyun took out a set of armor and put it on. He also wore a human skin mask, making his appearance look very ordinary. He smiled, let's go. With this appearance, it's better if you don't become my male pet. No one will believe you. Zi Qingcheng said with a look of disdain, Just be my cousin. Cousin, let's hurry up and go. Qingyun said with a smile. Zi Qingcheng and Qingyun left the 9 Extinction Gate and headed for a city outside the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. When Qingyun left, he asked the second elder to inform Wei Zhongjing that he would be going out for a period of time. Although Qingyun had been fooling around with Zi Qingcheng all day, he liked to be with her. Because he could often pinch that beautiful and easy-to-pinch face, he could satisfy his craving. It took Zi Qingcheng a few days to bring Qingyun to the Northern Spirit City. This was the closest spirit-level city to the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. At this moment, many experts were gathered here. They gathered here and waited for the people from the various sects to arrive before heading to the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range together. The Northern Spirit City was a spirit-level city. It was originally lifeless, and no one expected so many experts to gather here. This also caused the entire city to become bustling with noise and excitement. Old Madame Du also knew that Qingyun wanted to follow them into the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. She did not object and was instead more willing. After all, if she had a good relationship with Qingyun, she wouldn't need so many purple coins the next time she asked him to set up some powerful formation. Ever since the Moon Profound Valley had the 9-colored spirit rain formation, Old Madame Du had become even more confident, especially the disciples in charge of growing medicinal herbs. They were all wild with joy. Of course, they were keeping this matter a secret for the time being. In a suite of a luxurious inn in the Northern Spirit City, Old Madame Du, Zi Qingcheng, and a few elders and disciples were sitting in a hall. Sister Qingcheng, I didn't expect you to have a cousin. I've never heard you mention him before. A beautiful woman looked at Qingyun and said softly. Qingyun immediately looked at the woman who spoke. The woman was dressed in a blue dress, and her black hair draped over her shoulders. She had a pair of charming almond-shaped eyes, and her light blue eyes were moving about with intelligence. Her appearance was also very beautiful. She was staring at Qingyun with incomparable curiosity. When she saw Qingyun looking over, she hurriedly dodged his gaze and lowered her head slightly. A faint blush appeared on her snow-white and charming face, making her look somewhat shy. Although this woman looked mature and charming, she had the shyness of a girl. She was very pure, which added a bit of innocence to her beauty. Little dessert, this cousin of mine is just a country bumpkin. He doesn't look that good either. What are you shy about? Zi Qingcheng smiled tenderly and said, You've seen quite a few men along the way when you followed Grandma Du out. Why do you act as if you've never seen a man before? Qingyun was secretly alarmed. This little dessert's cultivation was actually at the 5th level of the martial Dao realm. other than Little Dessert, there was also a young woman called Little Fruit. Little Fruit looked exactly the same as Little Dessert. The two of them weren't very tall, around 6 meters. Their clothes were also the same. However, Little Fruit was exceptionally cold. She didn't even look at Qin Yun. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and leaned against the window. Her charming face was filled with coldness as she looked out the window. There was actually such a huge difference in the twins' personalities. At this moment, a tall woman wearing a light pink dress opened the door and walked in. When Qin Yun saw the woman, he was secretly alarmed. The woman who walked in also had a pair of phoenix eyes and a peerlessly charming face. She looked very similar to Little Fruit and Little Dessert. The moment she entered and saw Qin Yun, she narrowed her eyes that were filled with charm. Qin Yun only took a glance at her before he was stunned by the woman's seductive demeanor. Her charm was completely different from Zi Qingqing's. Zi Qingqing's charm was hidden. When it was revealed, it was like a flash in the pan, gorgeous and alluring. As for the woman in the pink dress, she completely revealed her charm and coquettishness, especially her clothes. There was a large opening on her chest. It was snow white and dazzling, forming a very beautiful H shape. As for the lower half of the pink dress, it was also a translucent pink gauze that faintly covered her snow white and slender legs. She generously revealed more than half of her most beautiful thing. It was filled with a strong temptation that could easily captivate men. Big sister, Little Dessert shouted softly, "Where did you go to play? Why didn't you bring me along?" "I just went out for a walk." The pink-dressed woman looked at Qin Yun and smiled coquettishly. That smile seemed to have the power to captivate one's soul. Qin Yun suddenly recalled that on the way here, Zi Qingsheng had asked him to pay attention to a woman named Shui Tianzi. Obviously, the charming and flirtatious woman in a pink dress in front of him was the Shui Tianzi that Zi Qingsheng had mentioned. Shui Tianzi was also a warrior of the spirit martial realm. She seemed to be slightly stronger than Zi Qingsheng. This was also what surprised Qin Yun. Shui Tianzi came to Qin Yun's side with a coquettish smile. Her delicate, lily-white hand flirtatiously swept towards Qin Yun's cheek. When she touched Qin Yun's cheek, she shouted, "Io, you're wearing a human skin mask. Evil water spirit, that's my cousin. Don't act recklessly." Zi Qingsheng hurriedly shouted, "Tianzi, this is a guest. Don't mess around." Old Madame Du also spoke. Chapter 437. A deceptive gambling method. Shui Tianzi was very willful and did not listen to Old Lady Du's words. She looked at Qin Yun with a charming smile and asked, "Cousin, what's your name?" As she spoke, she used her orchid fingers to pinch a piece of purple jade with a phoenix carved on it. She continued to smile and said, "Cousin, do you think my little purple jaybird looks good? I just bought it. I think the bird's nest looks better." Qin Yun said indifferently. This caused Shui Tianzi to be startled. Then she giggled. Her laughter was also very pleasant to hear, making one's bones go soft. "Cousin, you haven't told me your name yet." Shui Tianzi stood in front of Qin Yun and asked with a chuckle, "Just call me a Shui." Qin Yun's tone was still very calm as he stared at Shui Tianzi's charming and light blue phoenix eyes. Zi Qingsheng hurriedly walked over and grabbed Shui Tianzi's waist-length hair, dragging her to the side. "Water Fairy, that's enough. You should learn more from your two little sisters. They are so obedient." Shui Tianzi looked at Zi Qingsheng with hidden bitterness and said coquettishly, "Purple Demonis, is this your man? Why are you in such a hurry?" Old Madame Du and the two old granny elders did not seem to be surprised by Shui Tianzi's actions and did not continue to say anything. However, they secretly admired Qin Yun. His eyes were still as clear as ever. This was also the reason why Shui Tianzi could not help but tease Qin Yun. "Elder sister, is there anything fun outside? Take me out to play. I've never played outside before." Little Dessert walked over and pulled Shui Tianzi's jade-like hand, shaking it. Shui Tianzi snorted and said, "There's nothing fun about it. I was cheated of millions of purple coins." Zi Qingsheng came to Qin Yun's side and said, "Cousin, This is Shui Tianzi. I told you before. You have to pay attention to her. This is Little Dessert. Her name is Shui Xin. She is the third sister of the Water Fairy. Little Fruit's name is Fruit. She is the second sister of the Water Fairy. Hello, Qinyan said. Shui, why are you wearing a human skin mask? Don't you look good? Little Dessert asked curiously. Yes, because I am too ugly. I don't want to scare people, so I can only do this. Qinyan nodded. Then you can wear a nicer human skin mask. Little Dessert became bolder when he saw his sister beside him and asked again. Shui Tianzi said with smile, Second sister, don't believe a man's words. He is lying to you. It's only because you are inexperienced and don't know how to read people. This guy's eyes are very beautiful. I've seen many men, but this is the first time I've seen a man with such eyes. Moreover, this guy's willpower is astonishing. He's very shrewd. I can tell from his eyes that he's a wily old fox with many experiences. Purple Demonis, is this really your cousin? Shui Tianzi was even more curious about Qin Yun's identity. He's my cousin. How is he? Have you taken a fancy to him? Zi Qingchang curled her lips. Even so, he still has to take off his human skin mask and let me see his true appearance. Only then can I proceed with the next step. Shui Tianzi was a very curious woman. She wished she could tear off Qin Yun's human skin mask. Zi Qingchang said, Evil water spirit, how many powers have come to the northern spirit city? Are the people from the bloodline aristocrat clan here yet? They're not here yet. I hope they come quickly. I just lost a few million purple coins, so I need to find a few fish to make up for it. Shui Tianzi brushed away the hair on her forehead, looking very charming. Qin Yun was secretly alarmed. He never expected that in Shui Tianzi's eyes, the disciples of the bloodline aristocrat clan were like big fish waiting to be slaughtered. Elder sister, why did you lose so much? Little Dessert said with some pity. I can be considered to be good. Hongwu Country's Hong Mengshu, known as the Gambling King, brought her martial king father to gamble. Didn't she also lose 20 million purple coins? Shui Tianzi smiled and said, It doesn't matter. When the princes of the aristocratic families come, I'll go let them bleed. Is it stone gambling? Qin Yun asked. He was very surprised that Hong Mengshu had lost so miserably. Shui Tianzi said, It's not stone gambling. At the entrance of the newly built inscription palace in the northern spirit city, there are 100 large vats. They are all specially refined and covered with lids. This game is called Guessing the Vat. It's something that the inscription palace has created in the past few months. It's a very deceitful thing. Following that, Shui Tianzi explained the details of the game. Each of the 100 vats had a number from 1 to 100. Before the bet, the people from Inscription Palace would put a puppet bird into the first vat. Then, they would activate the formation and activate the spatial formation inside the 100 vats, allowing the 100 vats to communicate with each other. After a short period of time, they would stop and then let everyone guess which vat the bird would fly to. If they guessed correctly, they would get 10 times the reward. The minimum bet was 10,000 purple coins, and the maximum bet was 10 million. Once every 2 hours, 6 rounds a day. Qin Yun secretly despised the Inscription Palace for coming up with such a low-end trick to swindle purple coins. I want to play, Qin Yun said. Then let's go. In any case, we haven't started heading to the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range yet. It's good to go and have some fun. Zi Qingchang said. Let's go together. Shui Tianzi smiled. Elder sister, I want to go too. Little Dessert also hurriedly shouted. All right, Little Fruit, are you going? Shui Tianzi looked at the ice-cold Little Fruit by the window and asked. Not going. Little Fruit replied. Following that, Qin Yun followed the 3 beauties out of the inn and walked on the streets in a very ostentatious manner. Especially Shui Tianzi, many men on the road stopped to stare at her, causing a lot of commotion along the way. Zi Qingcheng seemed to be used to Shui Tianzi and did not say much. Qin Yun, on the other hand, maintained a distance from them. Soon, they arrived at the square in front of the Inscription Palace. Here, there were 100 vats that were half the height of a person. The vat was black and looked very thick. It was impossible to use one's mental energy to probe the interior. The moment Qin Yun arrived, he used his mental energy to probe, but was blocked outside. It's useless. Even a martial king can't see through the vat. However, 2 martial kings have lost hundreds of millions of purple coins. When Shui Tianzi saw Qin Yun looking at the vat seriously, she felt somewhat displeased. This was because when Qin Yun looked at her, he had never been that serious. She could not help but think that the vat was more attractive than her in Qin Yun's eyes. Qin Yun frowned slightly and used his extinction spirit eye. In an instant, it pierced through the vat. This caused him to be pleasantly surprised. He had originally come here to see Hong Mengshu and not to gamble. But now, he had used the extinction spirit eye to look through the vat. He had to make a good profit. The Inscription Palace had tricked him, and he now held a grudge against the Inscription Palace. Now was a very good opportunity for revenge. Ever since he had stepped into the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm, his extinction spirit had been cultivated to the point where he could see through many things. We're starting to put in the bird puppets. Everyone, prepare your purple coins and line up to buy a number. Those with more than 1 million purple coins don't have to line up. A middle-aged man with a mustache chuckled. The Hong Ing martial king and his princess of gambling are here. Someone suddenly shouted. They lost quite miserably. They're still coming. It can be considered good. Yu Wu country's King Yu Wu has lost hundreds of millions of purple coins. There's also Xiao Wu country's Xiao Wu Wang. He also lost about 100 million. After the Hong Ing martial king arrived, he said with a smile, "Tens of millions of purple coins is nothing to me. As long as my daughter is having fun, even if she wants to continue playing, I will continue to give her purple coins to play. I'm not playing anymore. This is too much of a scam." Hong Mengshu snorted and said, "I'm just here to see if anyone can really guess it." There were still some people who guessed correctly, but not many of them. Some people only bought 10 to 20,000 purple coins, and they also bought 2 to 300,000. It wasn't too much. Isn't this the Moon Profound Valley's water fairy and purple succubus? Back then, they were known as the Absolute Charm Twin Beauties, and they caused a storm of blood in the martial desolate land. The water fairy also lost a few million just now. These 2 women are really uncontrollable. If only I could get them. Don't even think about it. The women of the Moon Profound Valley are not to be trifled with. Those who provoke the women of the Moon Profound Valley will not have a good ending. I heard that the Moon Profound Valley is a master of poison and some kind of goo technique. There's a knife on top of the word lust. It's better to stay away from them. When Qin Yun heard the crowd discussing Shui Tianzi and Zi Qingsheng, he was secretly amazed at the power of the 2 demonesses. A moment later, the formation stopped operating. Many people went to line up and began to place their bets. After placing their bets, they would receive a jade token with a number and time they had bought, as well as the amount of purple coins they had bet. Qin Yun used his extinction spirit eye to look at the water tanks and discovered that the bird was hopping around in the 80th tank. Then he went to line up. "Violet Demonis, I really didn't expect your cousin to be a gambler," Shui Tianzi said in a low voice. "Aren't you the same? He's just having fun." Zi Qingsheng snorted lightly. "I'll buy the 80th tank, 500,000 purple coins." Qin Yun took out his purple card and bet the last 500,000 purple coins. Even the people from the Divine Inscription Palace didn't know how many water tanks had bird puppets. When Zi Qingsheng heard this, she hurriedly walked over. "Cousin, are you crazy? Why so much?" Everyone had been looking at Zi Qingsheng and Shui Tianzi from afar. After all, they were both great beauties. They never thought that Zi Qingsheng would have an average-looking cousin. Many people secretly envied this cousin of theirs for being able to mingle with the beauties of the Moon Profound Valley. The Hong Ing martial king and Hong Mengshu were also somewhat surprised. They had heard of Zi Qingsheng's reputation, but they never expected her to bring a cousin along. "Cousin, I had a dream last night. I dreamed that I would come here to buy number 80. I will definitely win. You buy it too. You will definitely win." Qin Yun smiled at Zi Qingsheng and said, "My dreams are very accurate. When I was young, I dreamed that I went to relieve myself, and then I wet the bed. This caused a burst of laughter from the crowd. Chapter 438. 438 Chapter 438 True and False. When Zi Qingsheng saw how determined Qin Yun was to bet, she did not say anything else. Qin Yun paid 500,000 purple coins and received a jade token. Then, he smiled foolishly as he waited for the prize to be announced. Many people had been cheated before, so many tycoons were very cautious when placing their bets. They only played 10 to 20,000. In this round, the Divine Inscription Palace had only received a few million purple coins. It wasn't too much. 2 hours passed, and more people gathered in the plaza. This was because many people had come to take a look when they heard that the two beauties were here. As soon as they arrived, they found out that Zi Qingsheng had a fool cousin who used 500,000 purple coins to play with the vat. They were all somewhat surprised. Prepare to reveal the results of today's 5th round. The mustached man from the Divine Inscription Palace controlled the lids of all the vats to open. The bird puppet flew out from the 80th vat. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw the bird puppet fly out, especially those who had mocked Qin Yun for being a fool. They felt their faces heat up. This, he guessed right, Hong Mengshu said in surprise. Did he guess it? Shui Tianzi, who had lost several million in this game, also looked at Qin Yun in shock. The Hong Ying Martial King frowned because he did not know if this cousin of his could really see through any mysteries. Everyone was talking about it. This was too incredible. A fool had actually guessed the result accurately through a dream. Coincidence. It was definitely a coincidence. This was something that everyone present agreed on. Qin Yun chuckled as he took the jade token to receive the prize. Cousin, look, I've obtained 5 million purple coins. The people from the Divine Inscription Palace were secretly unhappy. They also believed that this was a coincidence. Those vats were all toys refined by the Tao Inscription Masters. Even the Tao Inscription Masters could not see through them, let alone a foolish person. Next is the 6th round. The mustache man grabbed the bird puppet that flew out and placed it into a large vat. Then, he activated the formation. The Great Formation began to operate again. A moment later, it stopped. Qin Yun used his extinction spirit to take a look and discovered that the bird puppet was in the 81st vat. Shuai, are you still playing this time? Little Dessert asked softly. Let me think about the dream I had last night first. Qin Yun very seriously closed his eyes and then opened them. He grinned and said, I remember. I want to continue playing. With that, he ran over to join the queue. This guy, I've just used up all the luck in my life. He actually believes in his own dreams. Should we buy it from him? What if I hit the jackpot? It's impossible. Coincidences only happen once. Let's wait and see what he buys, then avoid the number he buys. The second time he bought it, he definitely won't win. That's right, it's impossible for it to happen twice in a row. Others might not know that Shuai was Qin Yun, but Zi Qingsheng did. Who was Qin Yun? He was a rare genius. Even if he claimed to be the #1 genius in the Martial Desolate, it would not be an exaggeration. Zi Qingsheng gritted her teeth and lined up behind Qin Yun. She planned on following Qin Yun to buy and gamble. Cousin Shuai, don't trick us. I'll buy from you too. Shui Tianji also knew that Zi Qingsheng's mysterious cousin had an extraordinary background, so she mustered up her courage to buy it. Little Dessert also went to line up. She also planned to join in on the fun. These women, they really have short hair, big breasts, and no brains. I really don't know what their brains are thinking. That fool's second round definitely won't hit the jackpot. That's right. This is a gamble of luck to begin with. Even if you play 100 rounds, you might not even hit the jackpot once. How could you hit the jackpot twice in a row? Everyone shook their heads. Hong Mengshu gritted her teeth and went to line up as well, preparing to buy with Qin Yun. Qin Yun could not help but admire a woman's intuition. However, he did not think much of it. If they were all hit, then the one bleeding would be the Divine Inscription Palace. This was something he would be happy to see. I'll buy number 81, 5 million. Qin Yun said as he handed over the purple crystal card. Everyone cried out in alarm. To play 5 million in one go, this could be considered a huge gamble. Number 80 came out just now. It's number 80 now, it's impossible. That's right. It seems like he's really trying his luck. The two beauties shouldn't be buying with him, right? If they were to buy with their foolish cousin, then they would really be foolish. When they heard that Qin Yun wanted to buy number 81, Shui Tianzi, Zi Qingsheng, and Hong Mengshu's hearts wavered. However, Zi Qingsheng still braced herself and bought number 81 for 2 million purple coins. Shui Tianzi had lost a few million before, so she didn't dare to play too big. She only bought 1 million. Little Dessert didn't have much purple coins, so she only bought 200,000. Hong Mengshu had a martial king father behind her, so she willfully bet 10 million. It made people admire her heroism as a gambling king. This round of income was almost 20 million, causing the people from the Divine Inscription Palace to be overjoyed. Everyone felt that it was impossible to open 80 in the previous round and 81 in this round. Therefore, they all avoided 81 and bought something else. At this moment, the entire audience was filled with anticipation. They wanted to see how Qin Yun and the women would look like when they lost. 2 hours had passed, and the results were finally going to be known. The results of today's final round will now be revealed. The mustache man shouted happily as he controlled the lids of all the vats to open. The bird flew out from the 81st vat. The crowd immediately burst into a clamor. Mother Asterisk, it's really 81. Why didn't I buy it with an idiot? Who said that idiots are not allowed? Quickly stand up. I promise I won't beat you to death. Bastard, I bought 100,000. If I bought it with an idiot, I would have earned 10 times more. The scene was filled with wails. As for Hong Mengshu's loud laughter, it enveloped the entire plaza. 100 million. I won 100 million. Ah. Zi Qingsheng and Shui Tianzi were also blinded by happiness. Shui Tianzi had won 10 million, and Zi Qingsheng had won 20 million. To them, who were at the spirit realm, this was a huge sum. Qin Yun was quite satisfied with winning 50 million. The people from the Divine Inscription Palace felt as if they had seen a ghost. They never expected that this fool would be so strange as to win twice in a row. In the 6th round, the Divine Inscription Palace had lost almost 200 million. Today's 6 rounds are over. We'll continue tomorrow. The mustache man said with a straight face. Qin Yun grinned and said with a silly smile, I'm going back to sleep as well. Let's see if I can dream of what to do tomorrow. A Shui, do you want big sister to sleep with you? Shui Tianzi smiled charmingly. Upon hearing these numbing words, many of the men present immediately felt a wave of jealousy. The jealousy in their eyes seemed to be able to burn Qin Yun to ashes. I've grown up. I don't need anyone to sleep with me. Besides, it's rare for me to have a big bed. It's more comfortable for me to sleep on my own, Qin Yun said with a look of disdain. When everyone heard this, they wanted to beat him to death. He was too pretentious. Qin Yun was not pretending. This water fairy was not someone who was easy to deal with. Who knew what she was going to do at night? Hong Mengshu won 100 million purple coins and was overjoyed to death. Then, she and Hong Ying followed Qin Yun and company out of the plaza. Qin Yun and company returned to the luxurious inn and discovered that Hong Ying and Hong Mengshu had stayed in. It was obvious that they were going to stay there and follow him to continue guessing the vat tomorrow. This was the first time they had lost so miserably in the past few months since the invention of the Divine Inscription Palace. This matter quickly spread throughout the entire northern spirit city. Many Dugue had gathered purple coins overnight and decided to gamble with Zi Qingqing's foolish cousin tomorrow. Returning to the inn, old Madame Du and the 2 elders were astonished when they found out about this. A Shui, did you really dream of it? Shui Tianzi very attentively poured tea for Qin Yun because she wanted to win more tomorrow. No one would complain about having too many purple coins. Zi Qingcheng asked from the side, Cousin, are you really confident that you can continue winning tomorrow? No matter how much I buy tomorrow, you guys will buy with me. If you believe me, you will be able to make a huge profit." Qin Yin smiled and did not say anything else. Then, he returned to his room to rest. Returning to his room, he used a talisman paper to fold a special paper crane. By the time he finished folding it, it was already dark. He used the Imperial Spirit technique to control the paper crane and flew within the inn. He followed Hong Mengshu's remnant aura and flew through a window. After Hong Mengshu won 100 million purple coins, she could not fall asleep. She looked at the moon and stars by the window. Suddenly, she saw the paper crane flying over and reached out to grab it. This was a sound transmission talisman that Qin Yun had refined. After confirming that it was Hong Mengshu with his mental force, he said, "Mengshu, buy as much as I buy tomorrow. I'm Qin Yun. Remember to keep it a secret." When Hong Mengshu heard the voice that entered her mind, she was immediately overjoyed. She knew that Zi Qingqing's foolish cousin was not simple. However, she never expected that Qin Yun would be able to sneak into the Moon Profound Valley with two great beauties. She also somewhat believed that Qin Yun was Zi Qingqing's cousin. "This fellow is the same as you may, real and fake." Hong Mengshu chuckled in her heart as she looked forward to tomorrow's arrival. The next day, the two beauties were dressed in a much more low-key manner. They wore simple purple dresses, but they were still incomparably beautiful and eye-catching. Early in the morning, Qin Yun followed Zi Qingqing and Shui Tianzi to the plaza of the Divine Inscription Palace. Many people had been waiting here, some even waiting all night. When this group of people saw Qin Yun arrive, it was as if they had seen the god of fortune. They immediately became incomparably spirited. The mustached man from the Divine Inscription Palace viewed Qin Yun as a god of plague. He wished that he could disappear as soon as possible. Today's first round will begin now. The mustached man unhappily placed the bird puppet into the large vat. After covering the lid, the formation was activated, allowing the bird to randomly fly around and teleport into the 100 vats. A moment later, the middle-aged man shouted, "You can start buying now." Qin Yun only used his extinction spirit eye to take a look. When he realized that he was in the 95th vat, he hurriedly went to line up. "I'll buy number 80,500,000. Qin Yun said. This was the same as his first round yesterday. It was also number 80,500,000. Many people immediately followed suit. Moreover, they were all in the hundreds of thousands. There was no lack of tycoons among them. The mustached man's face turned green when he saw this. That was because the people who followed suit had placed a total of more than 200 million purple coins. Chapter 439. Big Profit. Yesterday, they had opened number 80, and today, it was number 80 again. Many people had some doubts. However, when they saw Zi Qingsheng, Shui Tianzi, and Hong Mengshu buy 500,000 purple coins, they dispelled their doubts and enthusiastically bought number 80. Although Qin Yin did not say it, Zi Qingsheng and the others guessed that he might deliberately lose this round. Otherwise, the Divine Inscription Palace would definitely not be able to continue playing, and they would not be able to continue fishing. Very quickly, 2 hours had passed. In the first round, everyone had invested a total of 300 million purple coins. Next, the results will be revealed. The mustache man felt nervous as he opened all the lids. He saw that the number 95 had flown out. Seeing this result, the mustache man with a bitter face immediately beamed with joy. He beamed with joy and said, "It's number 95. Many people at the scene were heartbroken as they wailed. The sound of cursing filled the entire plaza. When everyone sensed Zi Qingsheng and Shui Tianzi's killing intent, they quietened down. They could only curse in their hearts. The second round is about to begin. The mustache man felt a lot more at ease because Qin Yun was not always accurate. After it began, Qin Yun saw that the bird was in the 73rd vat. "I'll buy number 90, 1 million purple coins." Qin Yun wanted to deliberately lose again. Zi Qingsheng and Shui Tianji also knew that Qin Yun was deliberately losing, so they pretended to be hesitant. Then, they gritted their teeth and bought 1,000,000 purple coins. Hong Mengshu also considered for an hour before buying 1,000,000 purple coins. In the second round, there were fewer people who followed suit. However, the total bet was still more than 100 million. It could be seen that many people were betting with the mentality of believing it once more. Soon, the results of the second round were revealed. Many people immediately began to cry. "I've been tricked by a fool. I bet all my wealth. Fools really can't be trusted." Many people complained bitterly. They could only blame their bad luck. And in the following third and fourth rounds, Qin Yun also bought 1,000,000 purple coins in a row. Only Zi Qingsheng and the others followed suit. They had won so much yesterday. As long as they didn't play big, they wouldn't lose anything. The fifth round. "I'll buy number 8, 10,000,000 purple coins." Qin Yun shouted loudly. 10,000,000. Everyone immediately became excited. They had been squatting here for more than half a day and had finally waited for a big move. However, because they had lost 4 times in a row, no one dared to follow suit. No one dared to play anymore. In fact, they all knew that they had to win this round. However, they had a tacit understanding to cooperate with Qin Yun. If they were too decisive, it would arouse suspicion. He won so much yesterday, so it doesn't matter even if he loses. He can afford to lose. That's right. We've lost everything we have. Sigh. It's all because we were too greedy. This fool is really a bastard. I've been tricked to death by him. When the 2 hours were almost up, Zi Qingsheng also bought number 8 for 10,000,000 purple crystal coins. Hong Mengshu and Shui Tianzi also bought 10,000,000. This was a huge sum of money, but when everyone thought about how much they had earned yesterday, they felt that it was nothing to play it big. On the side of the Divine Inscription Palace, they weren't too worried because they were very sure that Qin Yun was just fooling around. The mustache man walked over and opened the lids of all the vats with a smile. When he saw the bird fly out from the 8th vat, the smile on his face froze. Those who had lost miserably earlier immediately felt a string of profanities in their hearts. Many people at the scene could not help but curse loudly. As for the onlookers, they cried out in alarm. The fool had finally guessed correctly again, and this time, it was a very big bet. Qin Yun, Zi Qingsheng, and the other 2 girls had all bought 10,000,000. In other words, they had each won 100 million this time. It was a total of 400 million. The Divine Inscription Palace had only earned a total of 400 million today. Before they could even warm up, they had already given it away. Many people in the plaza were so angry that their faces were flushed red. This was because the purple coins they had lost were all in Qin Yun's hands. At this moment, Zi Qingsheng and the others were also extremely excited. After all, that was 100 million purple coins. But it was enough for them to use for a long time. It's the last round. The mustache man's expression turned gloomy again. In this round, Qin Yun used his extinction spirit eye to see that it was number 39. However, he bought number 23 and 39 for 10,000,000 each. It was fine even if he bought 100 numbers at once, so buying 2 was also allowed. Zi Qingsheng and the others naturally followed decisively. The tycoons present had all been squeezed dry in the first 2 rounds. Even if they wanted to follow now, they couldn't afford it. This was because Qin Yun had bought 2 numbers. Even if they followed, they wouldn't be able to win much. Furthermore, there was the risk of losing. However, there were still some who followed suit. In total, they only added up to 2,000,000 purple coins. 2 hours had passed, and the mustache man was extremely nervous. If Qin Yun and company were to win, they would have suffered a huge loss today. Qin Yun and company had bet 20 million and earned 80 million. The 4 of them had earned more than 300 million purple coins. The Divine Inscription Palace had originally earned several hundred million in the first few rounds, but they had been won by Qin Yun and company in the 5th round. However, it could be said that they had not lost or earned anything. Open. After the mustache man opened the lid, he saw the bird fly out from vat number 39. He immediately fell to the ground. A loud cry came from a plaza. Two big ones in a row, both of them won. The first few were so small, but they didn't win. Could it be that he did it on purpose? This idiot is not stupid at all. I've been tricked to death by him. It seems like he really has some heaven-defying ability that allows him to see through vats. Damn it, I've been played to death by him. The Divine Inscription Palace is also quite miserable. The people from the Divine Inscription Palace handed over hundreds of millions of purple coins to Qin Yun and company. Shui Tianzi and company had earned nearly 200 million today and left happily. In the main hall of the inn, Shui Tianzi was serving Qin Yun delicately. She massaged his shoulders and legs like an obedient servant girl. Old Madame Du smiled and said, "If I had known earlier, I would have gone with you guys to play and won so much. I'll go tomorrow as well." Qin Yun said, "The Divine Inscription Palace is not easy to deal with. They will definitely change the way they play tomorrow. We should be satisfied with how much we can earn. We can only bet 10 million. Otherwise, if we smash it all down, we will definitely be able to make the Divine Inscription Palace cry." Zi Qingcheng snorted and said, "What a pity." Shui Tianzi rubbed Qin Yun's shoulder and said with a charming smile, "Purple Demonis, we should be content. Shui, are you still going tomorrow? Let's go take a look first." Qin Yun smiled. "I'll send you a voice transmission when the time comes to play." Tonight, many people were talking about guessing the vats. Now, everyone was certain that Zi Qingqing's cousin could see through the vats and play with the Divine Inscription Palace and many gamblers in the palm of his hand. Because he did not violate the rules, the Divine Inscription Palace could not say anything. After all, they had neglected it. Although the Divine Inscription Palace had suffered quite a bit of losses, they did not stop. They also want to face. If they stopped playing after losing so little, others would say that they couldn't afford to play. One had to know that in other cities, there were martial kings who had lost hundreds of millions. Shui, you cheated a lot of people today. They must hate you very much. Little Dessert laughed softly. Who told them to call me a fool? Besides, these guys are all gamblers. Previously, they kept making fun of me. Later, when they saw that I won, they followed me to buy and kept calling me a fool. They're the ones I cheated. Qin Yun drank a mouthful of juice from Shui Tianzi and continued, "If the Divine Inscription Palace loses 2 to 3 billion in the first round, then we definitely won't be able to continue playing in the next few rounds. We can't get two big ones in a row." Shui Tianzi smiled coquettishly and said, "Shui, I didn't expect you to be so cunning. Even the Divine Inscription Palace was tricked by you. I wonder how the Divine Inscription Palace will deal with it tomorrow. Actually, we should be satisfied after fishing a few times." Qin Yun finished his cup of juice and said with a smile, "I'm going to rest. I'll go take a look tomorrow." The major powers that were heading to the Immortal Graveyard had agreed to gather in the Northern Spirit City. However, most of them were only Xian sections. Amongst the king-level powers, only Hong Ying had arrived the earliest. From this, it could be seen that the king-level powers and the bloodline aristocrat families had deliberately put on airs and come a little later, making the Xian sects wait for them for a few more days. After all, they were king-level powers. It was impossible for them to come here early to wait for the Xian sections. This would be very degrading. Only the Hong Ying Martial King felt that it did not matter. The next day, Qin Yun woke up early in the morning. Last night, he had sent a message to Hong Mengshu, telling her to take a look at the situation today. When he arrived at the hall, he saw Shui Tianzi wearing a luxurious red dress. Her hair was decorated with beautiful red hair accessories. It was obvious that she had been meticulously dressed up. Zi Qingsheng, on the other hand, was dressed in simple purple clothes, just like yesterday. Violet Demonis, the big fish from the bloodline aristocrat family, is here. Aren't you going to dress up? Shui Tianzi said with a chuckle. I'm too lazy. I'm not relying on big fish to earn purple coins right now. Zi Qingsheng looked at Shui Tianzi with a look of disdain. Seriously, my cousin has clearly helped you earn so much, but you haven't given him any benefits at all. You're still thinking about those big fish. Shui Tianzi looked at Qin Yun with hidden bitterness. I said that I would sleep with him for a night, but he wasn't willing. Why do you have to sleep with me for a night? Qin Yun said with a bored expression. If I sleep with you for a night, I might be the one to suffer. Shui Tianzi said coquettishly. You don't lack purple coins and you don't like me. What do you want? I haven't thought of it yet. Let's talk about it when I think of it. Qin Yun smiled. I'm going to the Divine Inscription Palace. Qin Yun walked very quickly. After leaving the inn, he headed straight for the Divine Inscription Palace. On the way, many people recognized him. Although he was wearing a human skin mask and his appearance was not outstanding, he looked very simple and honest. His silly appearance was very easy to recognize. At the entrance of the Divine Inscription Palace, there are still 100 large vats. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.